You either is or you ain't. You do or you don't. You can or you can't. Or you will or you won't. Either way, baby, a good man, well, he's hard to find. Welcome to the One More for the Good Guys podcast, where good guys gather to shed light on the good life, the people, and the good things that make it that way. I'm Mike McGill with my co-host, Jamie Akins. Now, raise your glass, lend us your ear, and let's have one more for the good guys. You either is or you ain't. You do or you don't. You can or you can't. Or you will or you won't. Either way, baby, a good man, well, he's hard to find.
On today's guest episode, we have our longtime friend and soon-to-be yours, Mr. Ben Fields. Actor, director, cinematographer, South of Scruffy Podcast host, husband, and father. Without any further ado, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Ben Fields.
Now, sorry, don't cut it when it's every other time. You ain't gonna mess nothing up.
Well, you haven't seen me in a while.
I have not seen you in a while. It's been way too long. I've tried to get you in here, and you're busy. You got a bunch of kids, and you got an old lady on your ass all the time, and new job, and all that stuff. No, I'm just teasing.
Well,
she's a nice girl.
Sarah's the best. We put this on the calendar, and buddy, we made it happen. I'll tell you that.
Well, you know, we've been pretty fortunate with running the calendar and stuff, the way we've done it. And the only person I cannot teach how to use a calendar that evidently has no concept of what a calendar is, what the little blank boxes that you can carry one in your pocket if you can't figure the one out on your phone. You can use a thing called an ink pen.
Yeah.
Hell, for that matter, you can get a fucking hawk's feather and dip it in some ink, you know, if you're that far removed from. But then again, this guy runs a newspaper.
Do I know who you're talking about?
Of course you do. Rusty stinking Odom. Give him a date. I said, well, I got openings in March. Well, who do you think I am? The president? I can't block something out in March. I'm like, how do you put news stories in? How do you, what? I mean, what? I mean,
you can't nail him down?
Can't, no.
He hadn't ghosted you, has he? I mean, he hadn't, at
this point.
Yeah.
He's dead to me.
Next time I see him, I'm going to tell him you got a little beef with him. He knows.
He don't give a shit. I've told him. Hell, I make fun of him every time I see him just because of it.
Well, now I've got some new material to work with next time I see him.
Yeah. Who do you think I am? The president? I can't say I'm going to do something, a month from now. And I'm like, well, how do you say anything at all?
You think every time I see him, I just refer to him as Mr. President, you think he'll ever pick up on it if I don't say a word?
No.
No.
You know how dumb he is. There's no way. Hey, turn that around and use that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, I only smoke cigars once a year when I'm hanging with you.
Well, square peg, round hole.
My fishing buddies have actually...
and you can put that on the table if you want. That way you won't burn it.
Yeah, there's too many things over here.
It's rusty outside.
Yeah. my fishing buddies, Mike, have been getting me on some cigars. It's a good way to spend a day in a drift boat. I'll tell you that. A good thing to do while you're in a boat floating down the Holston River.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, and I've got everything I know about cigars came from you. So
there you go.
What are you toasting the foot there?
Yeah, toasted yours.
Yeah. Is it? See, you like that? Did you hear that lingo?
Yeah, that's good. those boys you're running around with, not like the other ones you used to run around with. Maybe they're teaching you something.
Yeah.
Or did you learn that on your own?
No, they taught it to me.
Yeah, this is the only way you're really, when you hear people say, this you might taste, you might get some taste of sweetness or honey or graham cracker, the different, flavors you can pick up on your palate. Lighting the cigar properly is the way to do it, because if you don't, in the words of Bill Burr, you'll just be tasting a bunch of smoke, you fucking asshole. Yeah,
I definitely picked some nuance up out of this guy right here.
What are you smoking, Ben?
La Aroma de Cuba. Is that a Cuban cigar?
Mm-mm.
Okay. Good. I don't want to do anything illegal.
Yeah. Lighten up, Francis. That is a Connecticut broadleaf wrapper.
Okay.
Which is the outside, and then the binder is a Nicaraguan binder with Nicaraguan fillers. That is made in the Garcia factory in Esteli in Nicaragua for Ashton, the company Ashton.
Well, what's Connecticut have to do with it?
That is a Connecticut broadleaf wrapper.
Okay, but they're made in Nicaragua.
Yes, but that wrapper is grown in Connecticut in the US of A.
So do they roll them up here?
No.
They ship the wrappers down. They ship the wrappers from Connecticut to Nicaragua.
Sometimes, yes. Now, it can also, it is not called that just because it's grown in Connecticut. Okay. That is just the term. That is the type of tobacco it is.
Gotcha.
So it can be grown in different regions.
Gotcha.
But they've got to be kind of like regions to get it to do what they really want it to do.
Which usually has to do with latitude, right?
Sometimes latitude. I mean, like they grow a Connecticut wrapper, which is not to be mixed up with Connecticut broadleaf, but they do an Ecuadorian Connecticut wrapper, which is grown in Ecuador because of the altitude and the constant shade cover, because it can't take the intense sunlight of somewhere like, say, Nicaragua or Honduras and places like that.
That's interesting. So elevation is a part of it.
For that cigar, yes.
Gotcha.
Or for that type of tobacco.
Yeah. I went to
we also do a Connecticut shade. It's referred to as Connecticut shade in the U.S. because they grow it under cheesecloth to give it the proper amount of shade where it gets the right nutrients and produces and yields as much in the right growing habitat.
How long have you been going down the rabbit hole of cigars? Because you've obviously very educated on it.
I found it very, very interesting. I mean, I've smoked cigars all my life to a degree, from just an occasional smoker to but to really get into it and learn about it. And I started watching a few things on YouTube, a few different things here and there, reading Aficionado, reading a magazine, a few different websites. And I just always thought it was just a bunch of shit. I thought it was just a bunch of made up, pretentious,
Is it not?
You don't have to ash it.
What do you do with it? Just
set it down.
Just let it ash in my lap?
No, it's not going to go anywhere. It's not going to fall on you for a little while.
Okay.
At any rate, so I quit smoking cigarettes.
I remember
4 years ago.
Yeah.
And
congratulations, by the way.
Thank you. I mean, it
was a good move.
I have still had one here and there.
Well, backslide?
Of course.
But it hasn't been critical, obviously.
100% human, guilty as charged, But
you didn't get your ass down to the Kenjo and buy another 2 packs right away.
No. See,
nothing like
I feel
like that's half the battle right there.
Yeah, for sure. But so I was at the liquor store one night back before the pandemic when I decided to quit, and I was just like, I ain't had a cigar in a long time. I could have a cigar. I mean,
I wondered if that's what it was. If it was almost not a replacement for cigarettes, but if it was something that came about after you quit smoking.
Well, it wasn't a replacement for them. I had always thought, you don't think about, like, I smoke a cigar every night. And it's a relaxation. It's an event. I don't have to worry about anything other than keeping this thing just the way I want it, enjoying it. It's not a jonesing. It's not a, man, I need a cigar. You know, like you would say, man, I could really use a cigarette right now. You know, in a premium rolled cigar, which is what we're smoking.
Thank you.
You're welcome. There is only 1 to 3% nicotine.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. There's as much nicotine in a tomato plant, because it also is in the nightshade family, as there is in one of these cigars.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that cigars weren't about...
Now, some of them are stronger than others.
Yeah.
I mean, because it is, you know, the Latin word is... nicotina for the plant tobacco.
Oh, okay.
So, there it is, but for the most part, they're not a jolt of nicotine that you're seeking. You know, you don't inhale them.
Oh, you don't? Shit.
Yeah, you know that, jackass. But to answer your question, I'm being long-winded. I just was like, I'm going to grab me a cigar. And I had just built this place. It was, bare bones over here. It was a chance to get away. And I was just like, you know what? This is really enjoyable. I wonder if, and then my mind started, how do you cut it? How do you light it? What's the deal? And then I started watching things and learning. And then I started learning about all the agriculture part of it and the growing regions and the stuff that it actually does good for these countries.
I'm sure. It's a huge agricultural boon for the places that are lucky enough to be able to grow it.
Yeah, and
provides a lot of jobs.
The Fuente family in the Dominican Republic has been a huge... they've built schools, they've increased education, it creates jobs. There's a lot of good to it. And I don't know. It's just, and also I have smoked a cigar with a guy that digs ditches, and I've smoked them with doctors or some executive. And it's just like, you don't generally run into a lot of assholes. And you always seem to have like some kind of good conversation. But for me personally, it's just a time that I don't have to worry about or do anything else other than relax and just know that I made it. I made it through the freaking day.
Yeah.
It's
a damn time commitment, though. I'll tell you that right now.
There is. And as you learn, as you go forward, there's different sizes. So there's, like a petite Corona, which is a size that's probably like a 4.5 inch by a 46 ring gauge, something like that.
I got one of those.
And they'll take a lot less time.
Yeah, I guess you get to cigarette at some point, right?
Yeah. Yeah, there you go. Or cigarillo.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
What are those again? What's a cigarillo? Are those the like black and mild type deals?
A small. Yes and no. I mean, black and mild is a paper wrapper.
Those things smell like shit.
Yeah, they're paper. They're not, and the tobacco inside of them are chopped. So So it's just filler.
It's the bad stuff. It's the damn
inside these cigars we're smoking are actual tobacco leaves wrapped lengthwise, and they're made and they're put together so they will combust. And I've been talking for how long?
About 3 centimeters on that, or millimeters.
Well,
sorry.
I'm saying without even puffing it.
Oh yeah. Stays lit.
Yeah.
It's because it doesn't have gunpowder rings in it like a damn Camel Crush.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me, Mike. This place is great.
Oh, thank you, man.
It's awesome.
Welcome to the Honky Tonk.
It's great, man. It's what it's both what I envisioned, but also better than what I envisioned.
Well, good.
You've done a bang up job, man.
Well, thanks, man. It's just full of a bunch of useless shit I've been hauling around for all my life.
You kidding me? There's $300,000 worth of damn memorabilia on the wall in this place.
There is some memorabilia. We got the dude over here watching over us, and the cutouts from the SEC championships, and guitars and cigars, and
It's great. It's perfect.
Well, thanks, man. I like it. It seems like I just wanted it to be somewhere that could be some of my favorite stuff, and somewhere where somebody would feel completely comfortable and relaxed, and you can smoke in here, you can drink in here, you can cuss in here.
Oh, good.
You can't steal nothing. So keep your damn hands off my shit.
Keep your eyes on me.
Yeah. I got 4 good ones. Don't you forget
you
it.
do. Yeah, I can't tell you the last time I sat in a recliner. This is great. And you give me a cigar and, whiskey, and this is
not just a cigar.
No, the cigar. The Aroma de
Cuba.
Yeah.
My favorite cigar. It's just for the money, that's if you're going to buy it from your local brick and mortar, you can get that cigar for under $10, and it's good for a newbie, or it's good for somebody that's a seasoned smoker such as myself.
So any place will have one of these.
I've never had a bad one.
Okay.
Ever.
So they're consistent.
Very consistent.
High quality.
Yes.
Somewhat inexpensive.
Yeah.
And are they available? You pretty much go to anywhere and they got them?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yeah. So I like those a lot. And it's a Robusto size, so it's about a 45-minute smoke.
I got that long.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. What have you been into?
Well,
besides running around, telling lies, pissing your wife off, catching fish, and listening to music. Did I miss anything?
No, you nailed it. We can pretty much wrap it up.
All right, folks. Next week.
Mike, I forget the last time I saw you. I always see you around the holidays because we always try to do something for the spectacular. I forget the last time I saw you, but I think since I've seen you last, since the last time we've talked, I've had a little bit going on.
Well, the last time I saw you was actually back at the holidays before, not this past one, but the one before.
The 2022 spectacular?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. Which was awesome, man.
Thank you.
I appreciate you having me.
Oh, buddy, you helped us. You helped put it over the top. You kidding me?
You didn't need any help putting it over the top, buddy. That was a hell of a time.
Yeah, but you lended your talents into helping it reach a lot more people and folks who had donated throughout the years and never got to be there in person. So that was a big thing. Yeah,
that was cool to be to be able to film it like I did, and I know a lot more about filming concerts now than I did then. Yeah, because that wasn't my wasn't my forte yet. And now
Well, I said all that because you had just taken a new job.
Yeah,
that's about the last time
I probably told you about it right then. Yeah, sporadically over text or maybe a phone chat here and there.
Yeah, but you were taking a new position with a new company.
Yeah, Lock and Key. It's an awesome company, and a company that I've had.
Oh, Andy Fallu.
Yeah, Andy Fallu, and Eli Heckmer is the other owner, and just a solid group of people, man.
I love Andy.
Yeah,
such a good dude.
He is a good dude, and he's
always been just a upright.
He is,
class act with me
for sure.
As long as I've ever known him,
you know what you're going to get with him. He doesn't bullshit you.
God, this is terrible, and it's being recorded. Fuck, Lauren.
Yeah, Lauren Fife, man.
Yeah,
certified badass.
See,
that's what she is. Yeah, I was in there rattling around.
Doubt me.
Yeah, it's such a solid group of people, and I'd known about Lock and Key for a while, and everybody kind of knows Lock and Key, I think, as this kind of music forward production company that does a lot of work in the music and the live music space. Video content for music festivals and music videos and that kind of work, but Lock and Key does a lot more than that. There's, commercial work that happens, work with advertising agencies for clients that have nothing to do with music. And so while music is a big part of what Lock and Key does, and it's a big part of what I do at Lock and Key too, it's not necessarily the whole thing.
The whole shooting match.
It's not, but it is a very important part of it.
Yeah.
And
it's kind of how they started out, right?
Yeah. And
you've had Andy, I've listened to it before on the South of Scruffy podcast.
We got to be careful.
Everybody that don't know, I mean, you're obviously going to know who this guest is when you read the thing and you hear the intro, but my good friend Ben Fields with South of Scruffy Podcast is our guest.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Well, thank you. Music is, our guys, Andy Fallu and Andy Vinson, two Andys, it becomes very hard to keep track of sometimes. So we call them by their last names, which makes it easier. But I work a lot with them now that I've started working at Lock and Key, within our music forward work and the content that we make specifically for music festivals. And when I first started talking with those guys, when I first met them about 4 years ago at a Knox Media meetup, it was cool because, I was in a different space. I was at a different production company working, doing a lot of those other things that I mentioned that Lock and Key does. Mm-hmm. I was doing that already. And the music part for me was a big interest of mine. Mm-hmm. I would see these guys at every music festival I would go to or any concert I would go to. I would see these guys, these Lock and Key guys that were making this badass content that would come out, whether it's on social media or on broadcast television or a newscast, whatever it is. I would see this work, and I was always very enamored by it because it really mixed my two passions together.
Sure.
The filmmaking side and then the music side, which I was already doing for fun and for recreation.
Right.
And so after I'd met Andy Fallu and Andy Vinson at a Knox Media meetup, we just kind of kept in touch. And it was almost a peer-to-peer thing. Like, you're at this other production company. What are you guys seeing in the marketplace? Because we still have a lot to talk about because a big part of Lock and Key is very congruent with the agency type work that I'm doing at, my previous company, Pop Fizz. And so we're talking about that kind of stuff. And then, when I started to get a little restless with where I was at, I'd always in the back of my mind thought about approaching Lock and Key and saying, would there ever be a chance of us teaming up and doing some stuff together? Because what you guys are doing is, like I said, it's really putting all my interests right there in one bucket, which is very, that's alluring, no doubt. So when we were finally able to make it happen, I really was kind of put in hard on the music festival stuff because it had become such a large part of what Lock and Key did and does that it really needed, a dedicated team to kind of attack all of it. And, still it's not all that I do, but it's a very large part of what I do now, our music festival work. We've got, I think somewhere 21, 22, 23 festivals this year that we're going to be doing the filming for, of course, on site, which means, turning those into kind of same day recap videos that you see, whether it's on Instagram or, YouTube, Facebook, whatever it is, to kind of stoke that FOMO for people that aren't there at the festival.
Promotion for the
festival while it's happening, which is really important. If there's a festival that maybe, let's say it's not sold out, and let's say they still have day tickets to sell, and so you're there on Friday repping out this content, kind of getting everybody excited about what's happening over here, and trying to get people to get off their ass and go buy a day pass to these concerts. So there's that part of it. But then we're also there to kind of be able to visually tell the story of the weekend for a lot of these shows. And, it's been a blast to dig into, and it's been a very steep learning curve for me because, I've been in, whether it's on location or in studios with, 30 or 40 person crews yelling, roll camera, cut, all that. And then now to be, trying to do a more holistic representation of an event ultimately.
Well, now in your past job where you were more on the direction side of things, weren't you?
Yeah. I mean,
are you on that side with them, or are you? Sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Are you actually getting your hands dirty again and actually filming and
right? So a lot of what I've been focused on the last year has been really integrating myself into a team that was already doing a lot of things really well. And so they're doing, Lock and Key is doing things really, really well because they've worked out all the kinks over the last 11 or 12 years. And, I think it wasn't muscle memory for me to step into that and to just be able to, and I didn't want to, and they didn't want me to come in and just start, go ahead and start being the head honcho on these big shoots, but rather assimilate myself.
You didn't know anything. I mean, about what they did as much as.
For sure. And I'm still learning in a lot of ways, but yes, my directorial stuff is still being fed, and I'm still getting to do a lot of that. But right now I'm definitely putting in my time with the music festival stuff because I feel like that is the other stuff I kind of already had figured out, or at least to a point that I felt I had a certain level of proficiency. And now I'm starting to dig into that and starting to feel that a little bit more with the music stuff that we're doing. And so just as a function of being very excited about the music stuff that we're doing, that's really taken a lot of my focus. But I still am getting, other directorial opportunities that don't necessarily, and writing opportunities too, concepting, and those other creative outlets that directing has, and some cinematography mixed in there too, which has always been kind of a 1A and 1B, the 1B to my skill set. That's been there for the taking as well. And I've still been able to nurture that and still get better with that because I'm working with a completely new team of people, a completely new team of directors of photography, and around new DPs that are badasses. And I almost equate it to like when I was wakeboarding, you always, when I was a kid and I was learning how to wakeboard and I got to a point where I stopped getting better. It was because I stopped doing it with people who were better than me. Mm-hmm. And that I think, has been something that's been really good since I've joined the Lock and Key guys, is that I'm working around people who are just badasses at what they do and pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing to get better. And like, I definitely feel, I definitely no longer, I feel like the student now more than the teacher in a lot of cases with those guys.
That's good. That's an important thing. You look so uncomfortable.
I'm in a recliner, Mike.
I mean, with
a beer and a cigar in my hand in front of a mic. Are you kidding me? Okay. This is the best day of my life.
All right. Perfect. Maybe you're just annoying me. Maybe that's it.
That's more likely.
I'm just teasing. I still don't like Rusty, but other than that, everything else is good. No, that's important. I mean, because you're.
But do you find that with music?
Absolutely. I don't want some. No, I mean, I know up front what my talents and my limitations and what I get and what that does for me. And I want the best because it's going to push me to be the things that I do. It's going to push me to be better. It's going to push me to learn. It's going to push me to be a better leader because I know these guys are going to be looking at me at some point about about everything you said, the getting the show, coming up with the concept, what we're going to do, the set list, what is our strengths, reading the room, putting the right song in the right spots, you know. And if you're just up there with mediocre people, I don't think it's going to challenge you to get to where you can.
Right.
Where you can possibly go to push yourself.
Right. And I in no way want to insinuate that I wasn't, working with those kinds of folks before.
No.
But
I didn't take it that way at all.
But I'm very much.
But it's a different world.
Yeah, it's different. A different world. It's the upside down. It's not even it's not even the same. It's not even the same context you can put the situations into.
Absolutely, I'm sure that there are standard things that go along. That it is in any part of your business as far as lighting or certain techniques,
sure,
a universal language.
Yeah.
But there's also other languages that are spoken in different places, and being that company versus this company or another.
Yeah.
You have to learn that.
Yeah. And I was to put it in the language context, like getting pretty good at Spanish, and now I got to learn Italian.
Right?
Yeah. And they're close. I mean, there's some words that you can figure it out, maybe a little bit, but it's a new, it's an entirely new track to put your brain on.
No, it makes 100%. I mean, it's crystal clear to me for that reason alone. I mean, because you're you're going to something that a lot of it is the same. Mm-hmm. And you'll take all that common knowledge, I guess would be the best way to put it, that you all have together, but then you have to learn.
Yeah.
It may still be Spanish.
Yeah.
But you got to learn the slang.
Sure.
It
might be the
Peruvian's different from what you speak in Portugal. It's different than what you speak in Madrid. It's different than what you're going to speak in Mexico, any rate.
Yeah.
But it's bottom line is it's pushing you,
mm-hmm.
and it's scratching the itch as far as why you got into this type of business to begin with, and it's scratching the itch as far as your creativity.
Yeah.
It sparked a new creativity, I imagine.
It has, for sure.
Good.
And it's taught me a whole new way to visually tell stories. And
so how could that be?
It ain't nothing but good.
Right.
You know, I feel like I'm kind of like a knowledge junkie, you know. I just want to know more and more.
You could have fooled me.
God bless my
I love you. I'm just teasing.
I set that up for you perfectly.
I mean, just pitched it right up there.
Yeah, I did. But I always want to be getting better at something or knowing more about something and becoming more informed about a certain topic, even if it's something that I'll never use professionally or in my personal life. I just kind of want to know more. I'm on a conquest to know everything, and I know nobody ever will, but you know, I just kind of want to get better at everything I do, and being around people who are doing it differently than you are and doing it at a high level, I think is really a good way to kind of easy button that whole process.
Well, okay, so this is perfect. It was actually, I did talk to you more recently than we had originally said. I came down to the fly fishing.
That's right.
Film fest that you
hell, that's a whole other barrel of monkeys. Yeah.
Right. But I'm sure, I know you've been shooting more of that kind of stuff as well.
Yeah.
And there's probably some tips and tricks and stuff that you've learned that you've incorporated with that as well.
Man, I hadn't really thought about it until just sitting here with you, but I really am just trying to pair my filmmaking itch with all the hobbies I've got and just suck all the fun out of them.
See how you are?
I've got a buddy of mine who said, you want to ruin something that you love, start getting paid for it. And I don't know if I agree with him yet or not, but you know, that with the fly fishing filming stuff, I'm, you know, grouped up with some friends that I made pre-pandemic 2018, Dorsal Outdoors. They have taken fly fishing experiences and filming these experiences and telling stories out of them to the next level. And they've done it by being relentlessly creating. And there's, anytime they go fishing, they're taking a camera with them to tell a story. Anytime they're going out with their dog to hunt, they're trying to tell a story out of it with a camera. And so, when I ran into you at the fly fishing film tour, that's another one of those things where, trying to pair trying to ruin my love for fishing by turning it into work.
Yeah.
That's kind of where that was all born from. And when we started.
Yeah, but man, if you can get close to all those things that you really enjoy and that you really love, is it, are you going to ruin it? Are you going to take away, I don't buy the
way I look at it is that it's a great office. If you're at a music festival with a camera, seeing Dave Matthews Band like I was last weekend, or Noah Kahan or Charlie Crockett, that's a better office than, a studio in West Knoxville.
Absolutely.
If you're standing, shouldering a camera in a 22-foot panga in the middle of Belize, that's a better office than a mansion in West Knoxville where you've tried to turn it into a kitchen show, and that's my reason for doing it. For wanting to push into the fishing world. Also is because I think the content's cool as hell. It is super hard to make. It's some of the hardest stuff I've ever had to make, because with the music stuff that we do, if you see an artist for the third time and you're filming it, if you see him for the third time that summer, you kind of at some points know what's going to happen, and you kind of know where to be at the right time. You need to be right there when Charlie Crockett lassos the microphone at the end of his set, with his guitar cable. With fishing, there's no telling when something's going to happen. And so you're burning through tape all day long. You're burning through media to wait for these moments.
And you're in the elements.
That's a hard part about it too.
You never know what's getting ready to happen.
Rain, salt water is the worst. Sand is horrible.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
And I can only imagine that, if you got tired but you might miss something.
Yeah.
It's like a kid that's afraid, he don't want to go to bed because he's afraid he's going to miss something.
That's it.
Yeah.
You can't set the camera down.
So you're high alert.
Sure. And so what we've done with this fishing stuff with Dorsal Outdoors is when we went in 2018 to Belize to shoot a documentary about this group of friends who were taking their 10th international fly fishing trip together, and they're in search of the Grand Slam. They're in search of tarpon, bonefish, and permit, and they're going to catch all three of them. It's going to be a great time. I was the only person operating a camera on that trip, and there's 6 other guys. Through the last 6 years that I've been working with them, everybody's picked up a camera. Everybody knows how to use one.
Good.
Everybody has one now when we're with us. And one guy's gotten really good at editing. One guy's gotten really good at color correction. One guy's gotten really good at audio. So it's become, instead of like me covering this group of friends that are out doing this cool stuff, it's become a legitimate company that is actually creating this content as kind of as a collective.
Now, were these the guys you had on your podcast a while back?
Yeah, when we went out, so long way around the barn,
because I listened to that episode. And it was very interesting to me.
So, Ben Meadows and George Constantine were on the podcast.
I recognize the names now.
Yeah. And they are both Birmingham, Alabama guys. Ben is actually...
Wait a minute.
Yeah, I know. Oh, no. George is a legitimate Crimson Tide fan. It's
as if.
I didn't say it was easy.
As
Mike.
If.
Yeah.
Well, then you have one mission, Ben.
Yeah.
Shoot all the great content you can and then show him where the bubbles come from. You heard it here first.
The podcast you're talking about was when we were in, I interviewed them in Bozeman, Montana, and Ben is actually he's a PhD economics professor at UAB in Birmingham, and George works for an advertising agency down there. But when we went down there to shoot this thing in Belize in 2018, it was all about, let's get it in this fly fishing film tour, the F3T, which was made by owned by Warren Miller Films and Outside TV and this, big outdoor brands, this kind of umbrella company of outdoor content. And this was our big thing to try to get a film in there. And, we were rejected in 2018 when we made our film. So we said, we didn't have enough people with cameras. Let's
because they found out he was from Alabama.
That's probably it. And the next year we went to Colombia, South America, and went inshore fishing for yellowfin tuna, and made another, I thought it was a great film. Denied again by the Fly Fishing Film Tour, which only takes 8 films a year. So, there's people all over the world making these films. It's no question that, it's definitely a hard place to get your work to be seen. And then,
it's not it's not a given. It's something to aspire for and work for. And
we thought we were just going to get in because we were taking a real camera with us, and and a real guy who's done this before. And it turns out it takes a little more than that. And so we're learning as we continue to do this work. But in 2020, kind of it all, there was no international trip to take. because of travel restrictions. And
shit got real.
Yeah, it did. And so it was like, all right, well, what can happen? And credit to Ben Meadows and George. They both they said, let's deal with what we got. Let's make a film domestically. We'll go down to the Florida Panhandle and make a film about tarpon and about catching tarpon, which are gigantic fish that can range anywhere from, the baby ones are 5 pounds, but the big ones are 180 pounds. So it's like those guys go out there and they hunt the big ones in big ways.
Sure.
These people are crazy for it. And so it's like, let's make a story about that. And so Dorsal that in 2020 made a film called Just Like Mac that did have some of the sexy fish shots in it and a lot of the the beautiful fishing shots in there, but it was very story driven, and it followed a character who was really telling a story about how he learned how to tarpon fish with his uncle, and his uncle meant the world to him and taught him how to do what he does. And then his uncle passed away. And so he feels like he's carrying on his uncle's, legacy through doing this. And we got into the fly fishing film tour that year with that film. With something that was very story driven and not as, sexy giant fish eating all over the place, which is what everybody wants to see.
Shit.
Everybody's seen it. But that was the first year that we got into the fly fishing film tour. And then this 2024 will be the fourth year in a row that we'll have had a film in that film tour.
Nice.
Yeah.
Then, so did that inspire you all to take a new direction as far as a new approach about filming and coming up more concept and
For sure. So when we started the Belize film in 2018, we wanted to take this story and this script down with us to Belize and make this story happen come hell or high water and cut something out of it. And then after that, we started. After that didn't work out and we didn't get our film in front of the people we wanted to get it in front of, we said, why don't we go down there with not a script and let's let this thing, let's film what we can film. Let's try to in real time identify what's going to be emotional about this story, because obviously people are attaching to the work that we make that is story driven and emotionally evocative more so than they are our, adventure type stories.
Right.
And so, yes, to answer your question, it really did. It probably was a turning point for Dorsal Outdoors, in that I think Dorsal saw it as we're storytellers first and we're outdoor filmmakers second.
Yeah.
And
you can take that band off there if you want.
Okay. But now every story. So then, after that kind of became the new MO of Dorsal, it became, okay, so let's tell good stories. Let's tell these great stories and emotionally evocative stories that we now know how to tell. But what if we did that plus the fish porn thing that all the other guys are doing? Drone shots of 180-foot tarpon or 180-pound tarpon coming up and, eating. So what if we put it all together? Because we've already got the story part down, or at least we think we do. So what if we can figure out a way to now capture this really sexy stuff that everybody wants to see? And then we put them together. And so that's kind of been the focus. And now Dorsal has moved into not just doing fishing films, but I mean, there's a hunting film that's about to come out this year. There's a film, like a very emotional film about a 30-minute documentary about a vineyard in Alabama and how, the owner's journey with cancer has kind of made it, it saved his life ultimately. Yeah. And so there's,
let's get you stoked back up.
Yeah.
Hey folks, if you're looking for a cool, eclectic place with an outside patio, plenty of UT sports games, cold beer, and live music on the weekends, then look no further than one of our homes away from home, Trailhead Beer Market, located at 1317 Island Home Avenue in South Knoxville, Tennessee. Trailhead is South Knoxville's first beer market, situated on the banks of the Tennessee River and in the backyard of the Urban Wilderness and Iams Nature Center. You can find more info on Facebook and Instagram about specials, live acts, and the goings-on, and be sure to tell them McGill and Jamie sent you, and have one more for the good guys.
That's my third cigar of the year, Mike.
Very good.
I think I'd be better by now.
Well, I think we live in this time that is, everybody wants to, I think you want to capture the moment, and obviously that's what you're going for. I'm just talking about general folks. I think that's why you see everybody with their damn phone all the time. They're trying to capture a moment, and instead of living in the moment,
sure,
and experiencing the moment. And I would think, I don't know nothing, but I would think in what you've just told me that you guys are trying to be in that moment, but also capture it as best you can, that it naturally tells its story.
That's the idea, is to, we've built out these camera rigs to make them as small as possible, as little of a burden as possible, so everybody can operate them and everybody can use them and always capture very high quality stuff. And so it's gotten to the point where I was the sole cameraman on that first trip, to where now I'm on camera talent now too, and those other guys are holding the camera just as much as I am. They're like, we want to put you in front of the camera because we want to make this a free for all. We don't just want to make this you're the only one working and the rest of us are having fun. It's simple math. You just upped your chances of being able to live in the moment and capture it. Yeah, you're one guy trying to catch something out of six. Yeah. Yeah, well, but somebody's got to hold the camera. Well, I'm saying, but bear with me here. Okay. I'm just saying, with in the past, where you're one camera operator guy, but you're trying to film 6 different people with rods and reels in their hand. Yeah. Okay. It's fucking math. Yeah. It's hard to do. I've heard of this. It's already hard to do with the elements and everything that's all the different things that face the challenges that face you. Yeah. So if you get a little help here to help cover, I'm sure it just has to help, and it allows you to capture more. I'm glad I bared with you, because you were exactly right. Yeah, of course I was. Yeah. I mean, now that everybody's got a camera in their boat or on their paddleboard or whatever it is, and a high quality cinema camera, a good thing that takes really good images, and we've got a couple guys that can fly a drone too. Yeah. So now that we have all that, yes, you're right. Our chances of capturing good shit have been elevated. Well, in a big way. It's part of why they got a hunting show. Yeah. I mean, or a film, not a show, but it's part of why, they were able to take the opportunity to go down and try to capture the vineyard story. Sure. I mean, they're great storytellers. Yeah. And they know what they're doing. They're liars. They're fishermen. For God's sakes. Yeah. Who'd have thought? The picture weighed 80 pounds, right? Exactly. Hey, that's one thing. Your stories you start to lie a lot less about your fishing stories when you realize that it's all on camera. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I can imagine. But to your point about everybody walking around filming themselves, what they're doing, and wanting and capturing the moment. I think I think I think that's the reason that reality television was so big in the, early 2000s, is that like drama and emotion and all that is really hard to manufacture. It's hard. I mean, it's hard to do what Tom Cruise does. It's hard to do what these filmmakers do. Mm-hmm. And, you can hold up a camera in front of some girl who just stormed the Capitol screaming about how she got maced, and that's got 10 million views because people people's emotions, kind of draw when they see that. It's evocative. And I think that people love to be observers of emotion. And I think that it's a lot easier to capture than it is to manufacture. And so I think that's why you see people with the phone in their hand so much now. And I think that, you add on top of that the endorphin rush of seeing that 1 million people just liked it on TikTok, then now, oh, well, I'm famous, aren't I? Mm. I'm TikTok famous now, aren't I? So there's this whole snowballing effect of, of people that are wanting to capture rather than live, I think.
I think so too. I mean, it's just, in my world with the music, it's like I've said it a long, long time, is if you want to hear it perfect, buy the record.
Yeah.
Because if you're going to come to one of my shows, it's going to be about that night.
Yeah.
And we're going to have fun together. And I'm going to try to pick what I think in our strongest suits of taking you on a little bit of a ride. I'm going to bring you up. I'm going to bring you back down. We're going to slow. We're going to fight. It's a program.
Yeah.
And it's about experiencing something that night,
That's why I've always navigated towards,
and I'm sure you see that a ton with, like you say, the third time you've seen Act X.
Yeah.
And they could be up there watching, like watching paint dry, or they could be, doing something that you never heard them do before, or they call an audible.
That's why I love the jam bands. And people give jam bands a hard time. But it's ultimately just kind of an extrapolation of jazz music a little bit, and that there's a lot of improvisation. But I think that's what always drew me to wanting to go see the acts in concert that were a different set list every night, 2 sets at an encore, the whole Grateful Dead situation where you were never getting the same. You could go on you could go chase them around 3 cities and never get the same show, never get the same song twice, in a 35 song set list. You never hear the same song twice. I think that's what live music is about. Yeah. And if you do want to hear it perfect, buy the record.
Yeah.
And it sounds perfect every time.
Yeah. Because we worked our ass off.
Right.
We recorded it. Tape don't lie, or whatever. Digital, blah, blah.
What you guys put into stuff when you record is amazing. Like the amount of just nuance that goes into it, and just the amount of effort and perfectionism that goes into recording a record, to me is fascinating. And listeners, of course, don't appreciate it. They think it just kind of, as far as most people are concerned, every song was recorded live, probably in a studio,
Yeah. In fairness to those folks too, they're outside of their wheelhouse. They don't know. And why should they?
Yeah,
on a lot of that.
I just think it's fascinating how much goes into it and how painstakingly you guys have to work to make it happen.
Okay, let's say you're tracking something. So you are playing it live, but you're trying to track it all in one take without
just by yourself, right? Not with the whole band.
Whether you're doing it by yourself or say there's a rhythm, say there's 4 of you. Say you got a drummer, a bass player, a rhythm guitar player, and you guys are trying to, you got a 3-minute and 48-second song, and you're trying to play it in time together without fat fingering anything.
Yeah.
Leaving room for the breaks that are going to be put in over the top of it.
Right.
Or leaving room for the singer because he does or she does this certain thing in this one spot. And do it perfectly together for 3 minutes and 48 seconds.
It sounds impossible.
Yeah. But now, with today's technology, we have the ability to, I dropped it on that 12th bar.
Can you copy the 11th bar?
Fingered the G. Could you go back and copy and paste that? Or can you punch me in on this?
Yep.
And then you go back and you hear something like, somebody like Jerry Lee Lewis, or, and I'm just not, he was, I am using him as an example because he was notorious for only doing 1 or 2 takes.
And then just copy paste it for the rest of the song?
No, there wasn't none of that shit back then.
1 or 2 takes.
Right.
Oh, gotcha.
It was either right or it wasn't.
Yeah.
Or you just went, yeah, it's good. Next. That's the way music used to be made.
That sounds efficient to me.
You know what I'm saying? But you either capture it or you don't. You move on. But now we have the luxuries of being able to, okay, that spot's coming up. I'm going to punch you in on the pickup on the da-da-da. There's the da-da-da. You hit the note you messed up on. Next. So there's a lot of efficiencies. It's a lot easier to do what we do now than it was to line up, have all your shit together, and cut it in one take. You know that from being an actor.
Yeah.
Do you want to be that guy? It took 17 takes to get Liberty Mutual right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That actor doesn't work for very long usually.
Right, exactly. Because there's 10 more.
If you've done 17 takes and the 17th one probably isn't it either.
Yeah, no. If you haven't learned it by now, that's what I always aggravate the guys and be like, what keys is this in? What's the tempo? And I'm like, boys, if you don't know it by now, there's no need to rehearse it.
Did you introduce the band this year? At the Spectacular?
Yeah.
Okay.
For sure, yeah.
That's I've never seen anybody else do that. That's really funny. When you introduce them to each other?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's old school. That's shtick stuff.
It is, but it's funny as hell.
From back in the day, yeah.
It's really funny. And I haven't seen anybody else do it. Maybe it's because it got so played out, 40 years ago that nobody ever does it.
Maybe. Or maybe I'm just so old nobody gives a shit.
I think it's funny as hell.
Well, you're always trying to, come up with a little something. You don't want to get, you don't want to just stand up there and waste all their time and talk about everything. You want to play music. That's what they're there to hear. But I do feel like you take your spots to where you can, you're not a stand-up, you're a musician, but you can put a little things in here somewhere. To make it enjoyable for somebody,
I've always, of course, loved your music and thought you were extremely talented. I love your voice. I think it's strong, and I've never heard you sing a bad song. You've turned me on to all kinds of music through seeing you play, and I've always felt that you've had this really cool borderline variety show to your game too. It's always fun. It's not just the music. It's like a bit of an Andy Kaufman act.
Oh yeah. Well, they always say that I can politely get away with telling somebody off and making them enjoy it while you're really kind of giving them the business. Yeah.
I mean, hell, I showed up tonight not knowing you were,
Yeah.
I thought you were telling me to go to hell, but no, you were inviting me over to your house.
Yeah. Well, I think that just comes from, countless
kill rooms.
Yeah. I mean, how many times I've stood in front of a fireplace or somewhere, at a grand opening somewhere just to make a fucking $100 because I had a light bill due or, a phone bill or something. And they could have literally, the people there, either A, they noticed you and looked at you as if a UFO had just landed, or B, they never knew you were there.
Yeah.
It's like you got to sometimes you have to make it fun for yourself. And pretty much anytime I'm up there, that's what I'm planning on doing.
You're just entertaining yourself at some point?
Well, I mean, I ain't up there for the hell of it.
I could be out robbing your house.
I could be out robbing your house right now. That's right. I've been locked up for less. So I think that just catches people off guard. It's like, you come up and it's just little things you pick up on or you say. And, like one of those things was the, hey folks, I'm Mike McGill. We're here to play music for you. Some stuff I've written, some stuff I wish I'd written. But the big thing is we're going to have a good time. We're going to play as good as we can for you tonight. And if you enjoy our music, you're going to have a good time as well. And if you don't enjoy our music, then you just sit there and keep your mouth shut and we'll all get along swimmingly. And you catch those that are listening and you get the laughs, and then you get some of them that are like, what did you just say? But there's no dead air, you're right into a song, so I don't know. It's just the way I do it, but
I know it is the way you do it. And I don't know that I've seen I don't know that I've seen a lot of other musicians do it that way.
Yeah.
It's almost, it kind of is a stand-up act at some point. It's not, but it does have those elements to it a little bit, I think.
Well, I always felt like I came from that school of watching especially watching bands, to where
air quote bands. What's that?
Well, just bands, like not a band that has a front man.
Oh, gotcha.
But a band, and they featured other guys singing a song. They gave an introduction because, hell, he's up there playing and working just as hard as you are.
Sure.
Not only trying to entertain them, but to make you sound as good as you can. I always took a kind of a baseball approach that everybody gets a turn at the bat, because it's good for them. And I think it does give a little variety to the show, especially if you've got somebody talented enough to do an instrumental or to feature them, or to, somebody that's got a good enough singing voice that they can have their own song, sure. To get that opportunity to, I'm just not jealous of it. I just feel like you're creating, you're up. It's math. You're upping your chances. The better everybody is around you, and the more that you can keep people involved. They already know you can sing.
They've heard that.
They've heard that all night.
Yeah.
Or they've heard it within the first two songs, and they're ready for something different because, your audience is sitting out there with a clicker. They can change your channel anytime they want. Faster
than ever now, buddy.
Yeah, exactly. So, it's something, it's the old stick and move, like the boxers.
Yeah.
So
that's what's always
been my approach with it.
I think the spectacular.
And I want people to have a good time.
Yeah.
I want you sitting out there looking like you've been sucking on lemons, eating persimmons, and you got to go home to get to get in trouble, to get put in timeout. No, I want you to have a good time.
Well, you're not paying them better. You're not paying them to be there. They need to want to be there.
Yeah.
Have a good time, you know? You're not holding them hostage.
Well, no, but, and I'm saying more so than like at a festival or something like that, you have music lovers that are there to see music. A lot of times, these bands coming up in places, like if you're in just a venue that says, like a jig and reel, or a place that is not just for the music, where they're having dinner and they're having this, you got to get ahead of that.
Gotcha.
It's hand-to-hand fucking combat.
Yeah. See, I guess a lot
if you're going to be taken, if you're going to win them over, you got to do it pretty quick. This ain't,
otherwise they're going to eat you alive.
Any green M&Ms.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I guess all the shows or most of the shows that I've been to of yours have been, they were there to see you.
Yeah.
And so that may be a little bit of a misconception on my part. I forgot that, I wasn't lucky enough to go get to see you at Jimmy's all those years, where I'm sure you were very welcome to be there, or the Aubrey's at Straw Plains that you did for years, but you're not necessarily the headliner. The damn Pizza Rockefeller's the headliner.
Yeah.
And you happen to be there, and don't make a fuss or.
Now, if you're content with standing up there and being background music and, and just being there to collect your money or, whatever, then you certainly can do that. And there's nothing wrong with that. But if you're wanting to be better, you're wanting to challenge yourself, you're wanting to win somebody over, then you pull out every trick you can imagine, every one-liner or a way to direct them into songs and in moods and feelings. You just have to kind of do that, in my opinion.
I think that is why I've somewhat associated, the non-music part of your show with stand-up comedy, is because I feel like you do open yourself up, or you make yourself a little bit vulnerable to where, there could be a bombing element to some of the on the mic stuff.
Absolutely. Oh yeah. I mean, there's plenty of times I've heard crickets.
Yeah.
Or you forget a word or you flub something up.
But if you just go up there and play Harry Styles covers all night at the damn bar in Charleston, you never subject yourself to that, your background music or whatever.
You are what you are.
And so I feel like you take a little bit more of a chance than a lot of musicians do. And I think that because of that, your show is better.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I want to entertain, and I want to be the best, at what I can do. And if I can, and a lot of it is, you just got to get out there and do it. And people ask all the time, man, you're just such a natural with a mic, or you know what to say, and I'm like, yeah, but how long you been doing this, and how long have I been doing it?
Right.
It's, when you do 200 shows a year for 20 years, or 150 or 100.
Yeah.
You pick up on that stuff. I mean, I don't want to be up there wasting my time. I want to be entertainment.
Yeah, I've never seen you disengaged from the performance. You always seem to be giving it your all.
I try, and
I don't see you phoning it in very often.
No, I think that's for, I'm not that guy.
For the uninspired.
Yeah, I mean, I had a mentor of mine always that told me, if you want, don't ever settle to be average. Don't settle for contempt. push yourself to, to places you may not have thought you could go. And always give your best. Now, if you're playing with a band, another thought of mine is if I'm up there and those guys are working with me and I'm working with them, I'm trying to sing my ass off and play as well as I can for them. I'm giving my all for my guys that are up there giving their all for me.
Is it because you don't want to be outworked or what?
No, it's called respect.
Yeah.
If you're up there playing your ass off and you're working hard and you never, and you're giving it your all, and I'm up there being a slack ass, phoning it in.
Yeah.
Well, you're not going to keep good people like that.
Billy Strings has a really good story. He did a podcast during the pandemic, and it was like a phone podcast, and he was talking to Sam Bush. He called Sam Bush, and he was like, Sam, I got to tell you, like, you taught me something about music that is probably the most valuable lesson that I've learned so far as live performing. And he talks about how there was a bunch of them on stage for some encore at some big show where everybody played, playing Will the Circle Be Unbroken or some shit with 25 people on stage at the end of a New Year's show or something like that. And, Billy said that he was up there, playing and kind of just drifted off to the back of the stage. There's 20 people on stage, so it's crowded. He just kind of dips back and then, leans over, reaches over on top of his amp, takes a sip of his beer and looks over, and Sam Bush is in the back also. Nobody can see him, and Sam Bush is still playing his ass off.
Yeah.
Even though nobody's watching him and nobody can probably even hear him, but it doesn't matter because he's there to perform. Yeah. And I think that's a pretty good, I think that's a pretty interesting way to look at any kind of vocation. Is like, you don't just need to work when people are looking, and you need to respect the people who are there working their asses off at the time by putting in as much effort as they do and showing that they're, that you care.
Absolutely. No, it's exactly right. I mean, what if that guy that, that man or that lady that's out there that's bought a ticket to see you play or made a special trip, gotten a babysitter, and came out, and you're just up there half-assing it.
Yeah. For sure.
If they were working on your home,
that wouldn't fly.
And they were up there just half-assing it, you'd be like, you wouldn't stand for it.
Yeah. But
you wouldn't have them back.
Right.
And that's my, I want to be invited back.
Well, that's the beauty of it, is people get to cast their vote with their dollar. And if they like what they saw, then they'll come to your next, your next show. And so you can't ever let your guard down.
Some people collect stamps. Some people collect baseball cards. Some collect whiskey decanters.
Yeah.
I myself collect pictures of dead presidents. And you have lots of them in your wallet. So help add to my collection.
I told you it was always half variety show hanging out with you.
Yeah.
It's great.
If they say money is the root of all evil, then you can cleanse yourself tonight right here in the tip bucket. You can get rid of that.
You've worked them all out, haven't you?
Oh, hell.
I bet you've got them up and down.
Spread more bullshit than a damn... But it's fun. It's lighthearted. I don't take it so serious that I'm not going to have a good time.
But you always do. I mean, on stage or off, I always enjoy spending time with you. If this is a 45-minute cigar, we're about 15 minutes into this podcast.
Well, you've been sitting over there running your lips instead of smoking. Like you've actually had something to say. Like somebody really had you here to talk. I mean,
Well, thanks for letting me talk.
No, you're welcome. How is, hey, and let me say this. So I came to the fly fishing tour.
Yeah.
And the thing you had down in Yeehaw. And, man, that stuff was, visually stunning.
Yeah.
All the films.
Yeah. It's fascinating that people have for some reason decided that they want to torture themselves as badly as we do by taking cameras into these impossible to film situations. But
yeah,
it's, filmmakers from all over the world that have, feel passionately about these stories that want to, tell them to a bigger audience and get them excited about doing it themselves, inspire people.
Well, I'm sure it probably has to push your buttons too, that you get to, just like you were saying, we built these rigs to be lighter, to be better, to capture, certain things at certain times. Sure. And I'm sure you probably geeked out on being able to, is that something you enjoy? Just the actual process of, that's got to be part of the, that has to be, that has to feed the creative part of that as well.
Feeds the nerdy part of it, the trying to come up with
but you're making something.
Yeah.
Not only are you making, you're in hopes of making a film, but you're making this to aid on, seeing that to come to fruition as well.
Yeah. If you feel passionately enough, if you feel passionate enough about the creative part, then you'll be driven to find a technical solution to figure out how to tell your story. I'm sure it's the same way with guitars and amps and pedals and all that stuff.
Yeah.
If you want
into that kind of shit. Yeah. It is. I'm just.
It's if I was, and I know that I don't ever see a 24 pedal board up there with you where you're putting out fires all night up on the stage or anything. But I assume it kind of is like that with music. Like you figure out a sound you want to make, but you have to back engineer how you want to make it.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of how these filming in these environments and filming the fly fishing stuff specifically has gone. And it's not just us that are doing this with these different rigs and building these different ways to capture these stories. All those films that you saw up there were doing something that's way out of the box and finding their own way to do stuff and, getting dropped from a helicopter in the middle of, nowhere.
Yeah. That crazy damn, that devilfish, man.
Yeah.
The Dorado.
Yeah. That's all helicopter fishing.
Yeah, that was
it's getting dropped off in the mountains where people have never, people have been, but yeah.
But might not have come back from.
Yeah. Yeah. In some cases, seriously. Probably. Yeah. But that, that event that you're talking about at Yeehaw, that was spawned a little bit from like like I said, we've had a film in the fly fishing film tour from 2000 to 2024. So that's 20, 21, 22, 22. That's five years in a row, five films in a row. And so we've developed a little bit of a relationship with that film tour. And, because of our, because of Dorsal's connection with the fly fishing scene, nationally and internationally, they said, Dorsal, why don't you guys all live in the South? Why don't you execute a dozen of these screenings of these fly fishing film tour screenings in the Southeast and make them cool? We don't know anything about the South. We all live in Canada or, we live in Colorado, Utah, wherever, Montana. Like, you guys know how these events work. Why don't you put on a few? And so that's what the Knoxville, the one at Yeehaw was
was very well attended.
Yeah, it was good.
It was jam packed.
Yeah. And the fly shop that was here for a long time, Three Rivers Angler.
Yeah.
Was, at the time.
What's the guy's name that did that?
Alan Gillespie.
Yeah.
Yeah. They were in their kind of twilight. I think the writing was a bit on the wall with them that they were probably gonna close up shop soon with Orvis moving into town and just other pressures from the industry. And, they were kind of not as interested in putting on that event as they had been in the past, because they were usually the stewards of that fly fishing film tour event. Okay. They did it at Relics every single year.
Right.
And then, Dorsal via me went to Alan and said, hey, I know this is a pain in your ass to do this fly fishing film tour thing every year. We are passionate about it.
We got this.
We have a model that works. We've done it in Birmingham. We've done it in Asheville. We've done it in Austin. We've done it all over the Southeast. Like, do you want us to just take this off your hands? You can still sell tickets in your shop. You can still get, the foot traffic that this has always all been about for you, is, just being there for I think Alan really did it as a way to serve the community and said, you're obviously very busy. Can we take this off your hands? You can still get the benefit from it. What do you want? Whatever you want. I don't care.
Right. Yeah.
You can take all the glory, none of it. We don't care. We just want to show our film in, my hometown, and a town that some of the guys have a close connection to. And so, we partnered with the Little River Watershed Association, which is a local water keeper that it does water testing and just a lot of the conservation of the Little River, which is a big fishery anywhere from Townsend all the way down. I mean, it dumps into the Tennessee River at Duncan Boat Dock near the sandbar right there. So it's a big fishery. And so we partnered with that water keeper to kind of be able to make it an event, kind of like you do with your, with your Food for Kids. Maybe it's not with Second Harvest, like you make your Christmas concert a benefit. We kind of did that with the fly fishing film tour event at Yeehaw. It went off great. There were some thoughts to do it again this year, but a new fly shop has opened in Knoxville. And so as far as I'm concerned, and as far as I think the community is concerned, like, they should kind of have first right of refusal on bringing that community building tool to the community with, being these fly fishing film tour screenings. So I've talked to them, been in talks with them about, what I learned from pulling that screening off, and how they can kind of make it their own and make it something sustainable that they do every single year.
So you're going to pass the torch versus just bringing them in.
I mean, I feel like it's theirs to take if they want it, because I was really just serving as a stopgap I kind of had a feeling that the fly shop that was here wasn't going to do it.
Right.
And I thought that our community kind of needed it. And so,
does this new shop have those type of connections to be able to
they have me. I could do it for them if they, if they wanted to.
I gotcha.
Yeah. So, but so yes, they do.
So even in your approach and you doing it, it was more for community and getting the films out there.
Yeah, and part of it was selfish. Like, I wanted my family to be able to see my films. Like, I traveled to Bozeman, I traveled to Charleston, South Carolina, to see our films on the big screen with, thousands of people packed in theaters. And that feels good to see people taking your work that way. But, my wife has never, I guess has gotten to see a couple of them, but my kids had never been to one, know, and my parents have never seen one of those films that we had made. So I'm not the white savior over here that was doing the Lord's work, because part of it was
Messiah. I was just meant.
I'm just saying part of it was selfish, but also I did feel like the community, if someone else in the community wasn't necessarily as excited about it as I was, then I had the connections to do it. So I hope that the new fly shop, Smoky Mountain Angler, picks it up and runs with it. And I've talked to him a few times about doing it. And I think that bringing it back to Yeehaw would be awesome. I think they kind of want to do it in a theater downtown. Their shop is right next to, is on Gay Street, right across from the Rowing Man. So,
Okay.
I mean, why not do it at one of those theaters? I think the Bijou would be a good one for them to do it at, being that it's a,
yeah, sure,
700 person venue or whatever. Yeah. I think that'd be a good, fun place to do it. But I've also offered to help them out with it, and if they need me help doing it, I'm there for them. But I don't want to take it from them, because they can use it to drive foot traffic to their shop. They can use it to get people in. They can use it to get people to come here from Gatlinburg, where they already have a huge footprint as a fly shop. So I'm not in it to push forward any of my, fly fishing industry agendas or any, filmmaking agendas. I just want it to be there for the community. And if my family can come out and see my films on a Thursday night, sweet. But I think it's a much greater tool to a fly shop than it is to me. A much more effective tool.
Yeah.
So I want them to be able to run with it and carry it, because I want to, if we continue to make films for this festival, I want to be able to continue to come see them for years to come.
Well, yeah.
And I don't want to put them on every year.
Well,
but the Yeehaw event was badass. I thought it was really cool.
I thought it was really nice.
It was 10 degrees too hot, but other than that,
it was hot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you do it we did it in June. If you do it in May, you got to worry about rain.
I seen a dog and a rabbit sitting under a tree together. It was so damn hot. They didn't even want to chase each other. It's like, fuck it, man. Let's get to the shade, have a break. It's hot.
Yeah, they probably sold a shit ton of beer because of it.
I'm sure they did.
But y'all loved having us.
Hey, good guys and good gals alike. If you're looking for somewhere to go to get your hair did, then look no further than the Chop Shop Hair Studio. Our longtime friend and supporter, Cindy Lou, opened this spot located in Knoxville's very own Happy Holler back in 2010. Chop Shop Hair Studio offers a variety of services, including facial waxing, accessories, tools, and a complete line of men's and women's products, along with essential oils. A lover and supporter of the musical arts here locally and abroad, Cindy has a small stage with stringed instruments and offers discounts to guests if they are willing to play and or sing a song. The Chop Shop Hair Studio is a little bit country, a little bit rock and roll, and 100% pure style, just like our dear friend and owner, Cindy Lou. The hours are Tuesday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 7 p.m., Saturdays, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. You can also visit thechopshophairstudio.com and or call 865-525-4240 to book your next visit to go and get your hair did. Located at 1206 North Central Street, Knoxville, Tennessee, Chop Shop Hair Studios. Stop by and tell them McGill and Jamie sent you to have one more for the good guys. So, you were talking about, on our little break there, you were talking about, you've been dormant with your podcast, with the South of Scruffy Podcast for a while, but you've been banking episodes?
Yeah, I have been. I got to a point after doing one a week, and I hope this doesn't happen to you, but doing an episode every week for about 3 years, it got to a point where I couldn't keep up with it. I couldn't keep up with, I was running on fumes there towards the end, just being able to get a guest in every 2 weeks or every 3 weeks, where I told listeners I was going to have a new episode come out every week. And so it kind of told me that it was time to take a break and buffer a little bit.
Yeah.
And I didn't really ever publicly say anything about it. And in hindsight, I probably should have.
Yeah.
Because people ask all the time, you know, what's going on, and they kind of don't want to ask. It's almost like it's almost, like seeing your buddy whose marriage was on the rocks asking how his wife is the next time you see him.
Did you get rid of that old battle axe yet?
So people are always cagey when they talk about it, but I've been banking a few, and I think that
Good.
You'll see it come back with, I don't know if I can do the 1 a week thing still. Just because of my travel schedule and when I'm in town, I need to be with my family. So
sure.
But I think you'll see South of Scruffy come back with more regularity, and I'm excited about it because I looked at your podcast, and it's all the guests that I was never able to get, man.
Yeah.
Daniel Kimbrough, Poe Hannah, like, give me a break. These guests you've gotten in have been like exactly it's like the companion podcast for my podcast. And so,
well, you
have to introduce me to your friends.
Well, yeah, for sure. I mean, absolutely. I mean, when you first asked me onto yours, I had been thinking about it forever. And I finally decided that, I don't know. I just never could get, like I was telling you earlier when you got here, I just never could get out of my own way. But when I sat down with you on the very first one, wow, I needed it. I needed that charge. I needed that interaction. I needed that conversation. There was nothing about that night I didn't need, and that was kind of in the midst of the shit,
It was right there at the head, wasn't it? Because I think you were, I did 150 something weeks of podcasts, and I think you were like 4 or 6 or single digits for sure. You were one of my early targets. Yeah. And we hadn't connected much before that. We had 15 years of catching up to do.
Yeah, for sure.
and that was awesome to do it in that, and I think that what you have going on here can be that kind of thing like it was for me, which is just a bit of an outlet to catch back up with people you've always wanted to sit and talk to about topics or things that you've been scared to ask them in a social setting.
Well, the biggest thing for us, as most of all my guests have been my peers or musicians, and I'm sure it works with the same way with your peers. In that side of the arts that you do is, if we're playing, yes, I've shared stages with these folks. I've played shows with them. They've been on Christmas Spectaculars as guests through the years and different things. But you don't ever get to know where they came from, or was their family musical? Did you guys listen to music? All the things that, there's bar talk, there's music talk, and then there's all the talks from getting interrupted with people wanting to talk to you or the person you're trying to talk to at an establishment. Out in public. And so there's so much about each one of those people that we've had on so far that I never knew.
I found that,
and I know the general public didn't know. And some of these people had been a pretty tight part of my circle for more than 10 or 15 years,
I think
so
there's
it's very worthwhile.
Yeah. What I found with doing it is, talking to people who I've never met before and talking to people who I've known forever. I found that, there's something about people knowing that a lot of people are going to listen to it. Yeah. That either A, makes them clam up and not, and be cagey and be guarded about what they say, or B, be very open and take it as an opportunity to say everything that they've ever wanted to say or ever wanted anybody to know about them. Yeah. And I think if you can get a hold of B in that situation, that's what to me is special. And that's what has always, the Mark Marons of the world, who is what made me want to start doing a podcast to begin with. That's what his podcast is. And that's what I have always loved about podcasting and long form conversation in general is, hearing people open up more about, topics and, especially personal stuff that, they may not want to get into at a bar after a show, but they don't mind sitting in your shop on a slow Tuesday and really digging in to those kinds of themes in their lives and not just letting you know about them, but they're obviously aware that other people are going to hear it. And so people get to kind of hear what their message is and what they want their, public facing story to be. Yeah.
I've found that, the more that I'm doing it, and, I think we got, I don't know, probably 20 episodes right now or something like that, or
4 a month for the last 5 months, or November,
since
December,
like
January, February,
but so the thing I've noticed that I've picked up on is, and then listening and watching other things, is just ask the question. Don't try to sound smart or ask two or three in one. Just if there's a question you want to ask, just ask it and shut up. Because I hate it on like these interview things with like sports is the worst, right? Well, due to the thing of you having, it's almost like they're directing them. They don't realize they're directing them to an answer that it's just going to be a standard answer.
They're loading their question.
Yeah. And to me, for you to get that openness or to get that part that it just is a conversation, is you just ask the question you want to know, shut up, listen, and then have a follow-up.
Yeah.
Ready. And
or not, or your follow-up comes from their answer, in a lot of cases. And I think that's what, Joe Rogan is obviously a bit of a polarizing figure because of COVID stuff. But for me, the reason he has the most popular podcast in the world by a long shot is because he is a curious son of a bitch. And that's I think what makes this interesting or what makes this format and this medium, that's where it thrives the most is when, you're genuinely getting information out of people that's framed by the interviewer, and the interviewer has ultimately become, a conduit to the listener.
Yeah.
And I think those are the most effective podcast hosts for my tastes. That's what I get the most out of is when, I'll listen to a Joe Rogan podcast where he, talks about himself or whatever, but I didn't come to listen to him. I came to listen to Dr. whatever that he talked to, or, Senator whatever that he talked to. Yeah. And I think that's what it's all about is, for me anyway, is to hear is to be curious about what the guests came to, or what the guest is an expert in. Yeah. In a lot of cases, that's just their own lives.
Well, one of the best that's ever done it in the business, in my opinion, is Dan Patrick.
He's a great sports personality.
And yes. But I think I think you could plug him in anywhere, sports related and or otherwise, because, one of the things that I got from him by listening to and watching his show a lot, he left ESPN and went out on his own. made a studio in his attic. Everybody told him he was one of the first guys to ever defect from ESPN.
From mainstream media and do their own thing.
And just do radio. But
Keith Olbermann?
No.
You remember him?
Yes.
He kind of did the same thing, didn't he?
Yeah.
But he dug into politics, right?
Until he started smoking peyote and worshiping I'm being silly.
But he kind of did the sports thing, and then he crossed over into politics.
He and Patrick were co-hosts of like Sports Center.
Yes.
Yeah, they were co-hosts of that show for years.
Right. Stuart Scott.
Yeah, and Dan left, and then Olbermann stayed on for a little bit longer, and then he left and started getting into, he actually had some things on networks, on bigger network stuff, NBC, right. I believe,
right.
doing a few different things. And then started doing some political stuff, and then I think he just think him and Randy Quaid are best friends, or Peter Pan. I don't know, one of the two.
Well, Clay Travis is one of those that did the sports thing and then dug into politics. Remember Mancow Muller? You remember Mancow?
Yeah.
He was a shock jock, morning shock jock, and then got into politics. I think there's some like
Stern after taxes. So he was.
But there are some personalities who are just good at it and give them a topic to go on, and they'll sound that they'll become the authority on it.
Absolutely. But I was going to echo your sentiments on something you said, and it's what drew me back to Dan Patrick was he talks to a lot of athletes that are getting into either broadcasting and or podcasting, and he also opened up a school for broadcasting, an actual accredited course school that you can, if your kid wants to be in broadcasting, he can go to the Dan Patrick School up in Connecticut,
Bristol, probably.
Yeah, or New Haven or something like that.
Yeah, there's probably no better guru to have than that guy.
But his number one piece of advice to all these people that are seeking to get into this stuff, along with podcasting and broadcasting and all the other INGs, is be curious. And that's what you were saying about,
Rogan.
With Rogan, and why you felt like that made him so successful is to be curious.
Yeah. I didn't know that was, Dan Patrick's slogan, but it makes sense.
Yeah.
Because people are not there to listen to you pontificate.
Well, it's his advice.
It's his advice.
It's his advice for people that are wanting to get into the trade.
Yeah. I find myself to be naturally curious anyway. And I think that's what made me want to start my podcast to begin with.
Yeah.
Is because people like Mike McGill, who I haven't talked to in 15 years, what the hell is he up to? I've heard. Well, I knew that from the newspaper, but I needed to find out for myself.
Looky there, a little ping pong. Way to go, Ben. It's good.
It's about time I started returning that volley.
No, I think you're right. Now, you were saying that you've been banking some episodes, but you said, I don't know if you want to divulge any of this information, but you said you just did one that might be your favorite, or? Yeah,
I mean, maybe it's like, maybe I just forgot how much I love doing it, and I finally got to sit down and do it again, but I talked to Dr. Tori Olson, who is a history professor at the University of Tennessee, and he's made all kinds of national press by syllabizing this course wrapped around a video game, Red Dead Redemption 2. And
I just read a thing online about that today.
Yeah. So
okay, so you actually got to talk to the guy.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that
how did that come about?
He was my neighbor. He lived 3 doors down from me in Park Ridge, and we became good friends. We became good friends because our kids were the same age.
Okay.
And, he was, brewing beer and putting together play sets in his yard. And we became friends and from, again, just like being curious and him being such a good purveyor of knowledge. I mean, the things he was talking about teaching were just fascinating to me.
Yeah.
And even before I started the podcast, he was one of the like archetype guests in my mind that I had because, when I thought about starting South of Scruffy, I was like, man, I come in contact with so many people who fascinate the shit out of me, and the things that they have to talk about and the knowledge that they have is amazing. Yeah. And it is a disservice to humanity that these are not recorded and spread all over the world. And it was specifically a conversation that I had with him about the TVA, and he had written a book called Agrarian Crossings that was
about TVA, Tennessee Valley Authority. Okay,
the TVA, and
make sure I heard that right.
Yeah. And he was writing this book when he and I were becoming friends. It hadn't been published yet. And he was telling me about one of the chapters that he was researching and about how, during the New Deal, post-Depression stuff, TVA was coming up with this business model ultimately of, damming up rivers for flood control and electricity generation, and building these reservoirs that were also used for recreation. And there were these towns building up around these areas where dams were being built. If you look at Norris, Tennessee, for instance, there's a little hamlet in the middle of, nowhere, USA. And just the global impact that it ultimately ended up having, because TVA started exporting this business model to other countries, to South America, to Mexico, to countries in Africa, where they were saying, look what we did. We built these dams, communities were built around it. They provide power for, an entire, region. And in the Jim Crow South, you had African leaders coming into Knoxville, Tennessee, where people of color were persona non grata.
Right.
And they were having to ultimately stash them away on the 4th floor of the Farragut Building Hotel and try to pretend like racism didn't exist and Jim Crow didn't exist. And having that conversation in particular with him, and him telling me about this chapter in his book, I was like, this is you're writing an academic book that not enough people are going to read. This is a story that I think, could appeal to a lot of people. And so, finally with him having a bit of a press tour going, you obviously saw something about it yesterday where they announced that, he has a new book coming out. I think it's called Red Dead's History. I think it's what it's called. I could be wrong. I could be mixing it up. There's been so many iterations. But he's on a bit of a press tour now with it. So we got to a point where we could talk about it. And, he got, this video game has sold millions, tens of millions of copies all over the world. And I hadn't seen and or played a video game since, like, we'll just say Tecmo Bowl, which was awesome, by the way.
Yeah. I mean, it had been years. I had grown past that, and it was seen much more as a child's thing versus an adult thing.
Yeah, it's an adult thing now.
Yeah,
plenty of adults do it.
And I went. This was over the pandemic. I had one buddy who was working from home, another bachelor, very close friend of mine. And I had to have an outlet. It was before I got all this done, and I was taking care of Dad, I was taking care of Mom, and just the weight of the world with the pandemic, and then having a dad that was terminal, and I had to have an escape. I had to have somewhere to be able to go. Well,
way to turn your brain off.
Yeah, and I went to my buddy's house, and one day I walk in, and there's this, he's got a big TV, and there's this massive landscape and a cowboy and a horse and the whole thing, and I'm just like, what the hell is this? He's like, oh man, this is a Red Dead Redemption 2. And I'm like, it's a video game? Are you shitting me? Like, what? And I was hooked. I mean, I bought a PlayStation 4, went out and got the thing. Yeah, I was completely hooked.
So it moved units. The fact that you saw that game, it sold consoles.
Absolutely. For me, it did.
Yeah. Well, what Tori did was he dug into that particular title during the pandemic, and because he's a brilliant PhD history professor, he started to draw parallels and decided if I built a 300 level college syllabus around this, people would enroll, and it is a good substrate to build a history lesson upon, or America's history upon. And so he I think 2 or 3 years now he's done that class at UT, and like I said, it's gotten tons of national and international media attention for it. But his book that is about to come out, the news article that you read about it, was because
he 61 million copies.
That's platinum, I believe, isn't it?
Yeah, I would say.
And so he, the reason that you're hearing about it now, and it was actually the first legitimate press embargo that my podcast had to deal with. I wasn't able to release the episode before the article that you just read came out, because he divulged that, the book is with a major publisher, and it's audiobooks are obviously a very big part of publishing now, because half the consumption of publishing is done via audio now. The voice actor that did Red Dead Redemption 2, the video game, is voicing his audiobook.
So the protagonist?
Yes.
The one,
yes.
Arthur?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
His voice is voicing Tori's audiobook.
Sure.
Yeah. And another thing about it that we also had to hold off on releasing my episode with Tori. Another piece of news was that he actually was able to invite Roger, I forget his last name, that voiced the audiobook and the character, the protagonist in Red Dead Redemption 2, is actually surprising his 300 level class at the University of Tennessee tomorrow.
Wow. They'll go nuts.
Which is a bunch of video nerds that love history too. And that's why they're in this class with him. Yeah. And they're about to be met with they're about to be surprised by their hero. Yeah. Tomorrow morning. Yeah. At, 12 hours from now, they'll be.
Wow.
And
that's incredible.
And so that's why I say that I was really excited about my episode with him. And because we got to talk about, and he's a brilliant guy.
Yeah.
He's born in Sweden, moved here when he was 8 years old, so his family could live a better life. And is just one of the most enthusiastic purveyors of knowledge that I've ever met in my life. And I wish that every teacher I had ever come across in school was as excited as this man to tell you about something. And
also had the initiative and the wherewithal, not just the initiative, but the stick-to-itiveness to actually make it come to pass, to find a way of breaking down a barrier to teach a newer generation. I mean, that was part of our conversation too. That's amazing.
Yeah. Was to say,
I built this, right?
This building we're in now. Yeah.
With help.
Fantastic job, by the way.
Thank you. From friends and stuff. But I failed geometry. Almost failed it twice.
Yeah. Pythagorean theorem's a son of a bitch. Yeah. Actually, it's not that hard, but.
And I had a geometry teacher, and she was a sweetheart, a gem of a lady. She's not with us any longer. And God rest her soul. But, she could only explain it one way.
Yeah.
And I was the kid that needed it explained a little different.
The second way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, absolutely do we wish we had more teachers that could be able to
have someone who is excited about conveying information.
Yeah.
I mean, you wish every teacher was like that, and the system's just not set up that way. I understand it. And so that's why with him, it was obvious to me that I was in the presence of someone who is special and who is different. And you wish you could clone them and make every teacher, every college professor, that, and to be doing it in your second language is also really fascinating to me too.
Yeah, that's true. I didn't even think about it in that regard, but yeah.
But the thing that got me so excited about him was this small chapter about the Tennessee Valley Authority.
Right.
In a book that was not a throwaway book for him, but it was an academic text that he wrote that he got published through Princeton's press.
Yeah.
And it was, kind of his training wheels ultimately to writing. And now he's a published author in a big way. And,
very cool.
Episode 6 with Mike McGill was my second favorite.
No shit.
Everybody always asks me what was your favorite podcast, and it's like, and maybe you're here now, and it's such a stupid cliche answer, but it's you
just took up line. That's all you've done.
Yeah. Well,
but go ahead, continue.
When people ask you something like that, it's like,
chop. Well, brag on me. Let's go. Hurry up.
I always say it's like, the kid thing, like which one of your kids is your favorite? You can't really say. And my episode with
either one of them.
Any of my episodes, I really do.
Of course you do. I'm being an asshole.
But my 2 or 3 episodes of my podcast that I did with you are honestly just as much my favorite as this one was.
Well,
this one just, that's how excited I get about all of them.
Yeah.
Because I think that when you can uncover some interesting topics and and expose people to topics that they haven't thought about, or that maybe you feel that you yourself feel fortunate to be privy to. When you can share that with other people, that's the cool part of this medium.
And just learning, just being curious, inquisitive, and wanting to learn and hear different people's stories from different walks of life, struggles, triumphs, achievements, underachieving. You know, I mean, all of that is the human element, the human condition. And one of my favorite episodes that you did on yours was the lighting guy, the old timer that worked with Marshall Tucker Band and
Randy Reed.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I love that one. He was just so old school. He was direct. He was funny.
God, man.
He kind of didn't know he was being, and then you could at one point, I almost felt like he realized, like, I might be kind of good at this. And then he started opening up and sharing more. And
I got to tell you, that
was a really fun one to listen to.
For me, man.
And his son was there.
Oh, that was cool.
That was a really good one.
That was so cool. And so many people have said that to me, Mike. So many people have said that they loved hearing Randy Reed's story. And
there's substance.
Yeah.
You know, it was real. It was something you could, without a doubt in the world, you knew that guy did what he said he did.
He absolutely did.
You know?
Yeah. And to see his son there with him, who is a stellar creative and a stellar human being in his own right, was really awesome also. And I could talk for days about that one, because it was a really special one to me, because I felt like I was in some ways privy to like a father-son reckoning, almost. Like they were both seeing each other for the first time in the same room. It was super cool.
Yeah, I think you're onto something with that description, because there was a point there that the dad passed along his thoughts about his son.
Yeah.
And said how smart he was and that he was proud of him. And it was really good.
I almost feel, and I would say this to both of them, to both Randy Reed and Ryan Reed, I almost feel like they used that moment as an opportunity to connect a little bit. And Ryan brought his dad over as an opportunity to tell his story, because he himself wanted to hear his dad tell it all,
for sure,
because he maybe hadn't heard it himself. There were tears shed in the shop that day by all three of us, and it was a really cool moment.
Hello, music lovers. Campbell's Music Room Guitars was opened and founded by our longtime friend Kyle Campbell back in 2017. If you're a beginner or a seasoned pro, you're always needing something. From strings, picks, or maybe a repair to your trusty instrument, Campbell's Music Room Guitars has a full line of all the stringed instruments. New and pre-owned, accessories, pedals, amplifiers, and here's the best part. It's a local, family-owned business where you will get the very best of sales and service from the owner himself. Campbell's Music Room Guitars has something for everyone. Did we mention that he also gives private lessons? Kyle is one of Knoxville's most multi-talented players and teachers with many years of professional teaching experience. Located at 5103 Kingston Pike, open Tuesday through Saturday, 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. Give Kyle a call at 865-584-0041 Or stop by and tell him McGill and Jamie sent you, and you wanted to have one more for the good guys. No, it was great. I mean, there was gratification there. There was lots of love. There was history, and like you say, some things maybe that wasn't known, or and as you know, as well as many others, that you can have the best relationship in the world with your dad, and he can be the greatest guy that you've ever known, but there's also stuff you don't know. Sure. There's also bridges that are placed between fathers and sons. That's not always the easiest dynamic, and
sure,
things to talk about and get along with. And it was a great episode. I've always
wanted to have my dad on the podcast.
Yeah, you should.
I know I should. I'm scared. I'm scared of the vulnerability gap. You know how
I'll
it
have
is
him over here, and we can both make fun of you.
You should. That's how it should happen. I actually got to spend the day with my dad today, working on his motorcycle over at Jack Parker's house.
God, Jack Parker. I ran into Jack not too long ago. I love Jack.
Me too.
Yeah.
So I got to hang out with my dad, my oldest daughter, and Jack Parker today.
Okay.
Getting my dad's motorcycle running. Nice. 1978 Norton. And
oh wow,
my daughter was soldering the battery cables back on, and my dad was sitting there straw bossing, and Jack was showing my daughter how to solder. It was it was cool. It's like, my dad, my first kid, and my best friend, all hanging out together. It was one of the best days of my life, honestly.
That's so fun. I met Jack the first time. I think the first time I ever met Jack was down at Toots Little Honky Tonk.
That man can fucking sing.
Yeah. He was singing, I think he was singing a Buck Owens song, and I jumped up there. Didn't know him from Adam. I probably had a little courage in me.
Yeah.
And
he'll take the harmonies on you if you're not careful.
But no, he was leading the song, and I jumped up and sang the harmonies with him.
Did you? That shocks me, because Jack always
not asked. Well, he was leading it.
Yeah.
It was his. I hijacked his shit.
Yeah.
And and we just hit it off like, two peas in a pod. We started talking about music and old time stuff, bluegrass and old country, and Jack's a good dude.
He's one of the most solid men I know. I would do anything for him. Jack.
Same every time you see him.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And he falls in that, he is the same distance and age from me that he is from my dad. And so he's like, right. He was born in 1969. My dad was born in 54. I was born in 85. So we're like all, I guess, 15 years apart. And so because Jack has been such a good friend to me over the last 10 or 15 years, he's also become a good friend of my dad's, and they've got their own relationship. And then, he's been a bridge between me and my old man too, and which has been super cool. Yeah. Kind of like my podcast with Ryan Reed and his dad. Like there was a conduit there, and Jack has been that for me. And I'd do anything for that guy.
Well, dude, your dad, you and your dad are welcome here anytime.
I think you need to invite my dad over, and then
tell me a little bit about him and what he did and what he does.
Yeah, you're gonna have to pull it out of him. He's a stoic man. He's a stoic. He's I
ain't scared of him.
Oh, I know you're not. You ain't scared of anybody, Mike McGill. Come on now.
Well, there's a few people.
Yeah.
Maybe my creator. I'm pretty scared of him.
Are you?
Or her. I'm fearful. Reverent, I guess. I think that's a good thing.
Reverence good.
Yeah. But all you other sons of bitches I ain't scared of. Every last one of yous. Well, I really enjoyed the Randy thing and the episode, and then there seemed like there was enough. I was trying to think.
No, the rest of them were trash, Mike.
No, they weren't trash. They were a little better than trash, but not quite trash. No, I was just, but I think that one was one of the, and I like the Fly Fishing Boys. That was fun here and there.
Yeah.
Here and there, they just decided they were going to go off to, the other side of the world, and
it's like
everything was just going to come together, and and they ran into so many adversities, and
and they built a company out of it. 15 years later, which is
pretty
super cool. And they're, I'm glad that they asked me to, kind of consult for them. I'm not a part of their a part of the Dorsal Outdoors company, but I'm always involved in their stuff, and they're just one of those many people that you run into over the years who are doing cool shit, and you're going to regret it if you don't get involved in it if you were asked.
Sure. Well, what's the so bringing it back to Lock and Key and what you do for a living? What's the next greatest thing? What's the big music festival you're going to next?
Big Ears, man.
Oh yeah. Big Ears.
So
how can
festival season for Lock and Key and for us, really, it's a summer thing. Like all these festivals happen during the summer because that's when people have time to go and do these things. They have, kids out of school, whatever it is. And a lot of, I think the music festival archetype has always been like a college, kid situation. But now that you start to see the crowds get older, it doesn't necessarily matter if it's in the summer anymore. I shot a music festival in December in Florida.
That was going to be another thing I was going to ask you was how do you, is this like a March through October type of thing? Is this a 12-month?
It used to be
like Pigeon Forge and all that used to be just a 3-month thing.
Right.
And then it became a 6-month, then it became a 9-month. And now, as we know it today, it's a year round.
What I'm learning is that music festivals are alive and well, and the model works. And I think what you're seeing now is if the weather permits, they're going to have one. Yeah. And so, like I said, Florida in December, the weather was perfect. Beginning of December, Orange Blossom Review. It was a great festival. An amazing festival.
Was it?
Lake Wales is the name of the town. It's a small town in the middle of the state. But it, you would never, 10 years ago, never have even thought a music festival would happen in December.
Sure.
But this, group found a place where they could do a festival. They put a lineup together. A lot of artists want to play there because it's not a winter tour, it's not indoor venues in, Michigan. It's an outdoor 2-day festival in Florida, and had great acts: JJ Gray, Mofro, Molly Tuttle, lot of solid acts.
I was just listening to some Molly Tuttle today.
Grammy Best Bluegrass Album, right? She just won, I think.
I don't know.
Yeah, she did.
Maybe. Sure.
She beat out some studs for the Best Bluegrass Album.
I don't know.
She's solid.
Yeah. No, she's great.
But so to answer your first question, I think it used to be very much a summertime thing.
Yeah.
And I just got back from 2 weekends in Arizona, where, the Red Hot Chili Peppers were playing on a Friday night in Tempe, or Phoenix, Arizona,
Nobody broke a hip?
Anthony Kiedis was he had lots of PPE going on, a knee brace. He was in the boot as well. They were killing it though.
No, I know. I'm just
311 was there. Greta Van Fleet tore the house down.
No, I don't know 311. I know 310 to Yuma, but not 311. Was that the sequel?
It was the sequel. Yeah, it's a 310 to Yuma.
Like I give a shit.
But that festival was the last week in February.
Yeah.
Okay. And our last, I guess, summer festival is in October. ACL Fest in Austin. And, we have a ton in between there. See Here Now, which is a festival in Asbury Park, New Jersey. They just released their lineup today. And Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band is headlining that bad boy, which
somebody will be breaking a hip there.
Oh, yeah, it's gonna look like Leanne Morgan's Def Leppard concert she went to. Yeah, where everybody's sitting down. But all that to say, like, festival season is now, I guess, February through October.
Yeah, and
the only bummer about it, I kind of like that it's spread out because it doesn't all happen within a 9-week period or a 12-week period, because those festivals are going to happen and we are going to shoot them.
Yeah.
I would rather them be spread out across the year so we can focus on each of them individually.
Sure.
And have some rest.
Through a gauntlet.
Exactly. Yeah. So we can have some time to pre-pro each one of them, come up with our how's this going to look, what story are we going to tell at each one of these. So to be able to spread them out between February and October is awesome.
Yeah.
The meat of it in the summer, you got your Bonnaroos and your Lollapaloozas.
Sure.
And all those. There's, one in Oregon that we're doing Farewell, which I'm so excited about. That's my favorite one I did last year.
Okay, well, that was going to be my next question. So the next big one coming up is Big Ears.
Big Ears.
And that's in April? Is that right?
No, it's in March. It's the second to last week of March.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And then in April, we have High Water and Two Step In, which are in Charleston, South Carolina.
Beautiful city.
Yeah.
Friendly city.
Yeah. In Georgetown, Texas, which is outside of Austin.
Nobody likes Texas.
Yeah. And then, Shaky Knees.
Welcome to the SEC. Horns down. You big sissies.
I don't like having them in the SEC, Mike. I'm not going to like it much at all.
I don't care. I ain't afraid of them.
But we got festivals in May and June. Bonnaroo is the big one that in June. And then, we move on. We do stuff for, Bristol Rhythm and Roots too, which is an amazing festival and probably number 2 in my world. I love it, man. It's
really,
yeah. For the music that I like and for how a festival's put together, the birthplace of country music up in Bristol does an awesome job with that. They also they're doing a one-off deal in June called In the Pines, where Dwight Yoakam, Paul Cawthon, Elle King are playing. That's going to be super cool.
There's part of me that really likes all that as well, but there's part of me that like seeing where it for how many years that it first happened, and then it just kind of went to primarily bigger acts.
Bristol Rhythm and Roots.
Yeah. See, and I'm sure all of them do it. I'm not just before anybody gets their panties in the water or whatever. I'm just saying. I'm sure that's a natural progression that happens with a lot of different festivals.
So I have probably the blessing and the curse of being an uninformed kind of observer to this, and I'm just taking this as like a snapshot.
Oh, well, sure.
In time.
and it doesn't matter. what I think. I mean, if it's still your favorite, if it's one of your favorites, it's one of your favorites.
I just think it's cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's such a boon for the town. You know, it's their, it feels like their big thing for the year. It feels like the thing that well,
they finally got something more than the race twice a year.
That's what I mean.
You know, really.
Is that a town that...
So it's good for economics. It's good for...
And if that town has anything to tie their identity to other than the racetrack, I think it's good. And I think it should be music too. Because of the history of the region.
Absolutely.
And so I think if they are going to pull in big acts and do a real big boy music festival in that town, I'm going to be in support of it. Not just because of the industry I'm in, but as a Tennessean, ultimately.
Okay, so the next big one is Big Ears, and you're looking forward to the one in Oregon.
Yeah.
What is your favorite one? What's the one you can't wait?
The one in Oregon is the one that I'm excited about because it takes you to a different biome. You know, Oregon.
Well, it's its own deal. I mean, Pacific Northwest is
right. And we shoot a lot of festivals in the Southeast.
Yeah.
And a lot of festivals in the Northeast.
Yeah.
And to like even the one in Arizona last week was really awesome because it was dry. Right. My nose was bleeding. I was, blowing out dirt boogers.
Okay. What's better than cocaine, I suppose?
Well, yeah, of course.
I mean, with fentanyl and everything.
Yeah. In this economy. And maybe that's, the Oregon one is too much of a knee-jerk reaction for me to say that it was the one that I'm looking most forward to. But, I enjoy fly fishing, and I was able to fly fish every single morning that I was at that festival.
Okay. Well,
so I got out and I caught trout in the Deschutes River every morning before I went to work. Which with these festivals, I go to work at noon because I'm filming until midnight or 2, and getting these edits out, you're up till 2 a.m. and sometimes. So being able to, wake up at 6 a.m. and go fish for a couple hours and then go to work is pretty cool. I can't do that here.
Sure.
And so that's exciting for me. Bonnaroo is always just such a team building exercise for our crew too, because it's close. It's kind of our company's home festival in a lot of ways, because we're able to kind of engage the whole team, even the people that don't work in festivals every day like I do, and the other Andes within Lock and Key, and
there's some importance behind Bonnaroo regardless, because it was kind of the original, if you will, or the standard bearer.
It's the reason
being, you know what I mean?
It's the reason that I have
there's no other reason why anybody would want to go out there to do what they do. I mean, go ahead with what you were saying. I interrupted you, but
you're right. The region definitely benefits from it. The Manchester, in between Nashville and Sewanee, like that whole, Coffee County region, it's their Black Friday every year. They can always count on, millions of dollars of commerce coming to that. Yeah,
it's Bristol.
It is. It's exactly what the Bristol Night Race has been to the Tri-Cities for years.
Sure.
But beyond that, personally, it's the reason that I got into enjoying live music as a hobby, because I was 18 years old and wanted to go have a lawless weekend.
I'll tell you what else it is. It's the hottest fucking place on the planet other than Death Valley.
It can be.
There's no can be.
Yeah.
Stop it.
I put a hoodie on last year.
I seen the devil come out from behind the fucking Ferris wheel one year. You understand what I'm telling you?
And
I've seen grown men digging ditches to lay in underneath RVs just to find a cool spot to cool them, and myself being one of them.
Yeah. I agree with you. It can be very taxing on the Constitution.
You are not agreeing with me because it is the hottest place other than Death Valley.
It can be.
See, again, you're still not agreeing with me.
I'm saying it's happened for 22. The first one was in 2001, I think. It's 2024 now. They took a year off for COVID, a year off for a tornado. They've done 21 years now.
Oh, no. Yes, absolutely.
And there have been a lot of different, let's say, a lot of different struggles that 700-acre farm in Middle Tennessee has had. There's been dryness. There's been dust. There's been rain. There have been years where it was annoyingly comfortable too.
Well,
where it's like 75 during the day.
3 years I was there.
Yeah,
there was nothing fucking annoyingly comfortable. The only thing that was annoying was the heat index. Yeah. And I will admit that I think I've been to 10 or 11 Bonnaroos now, and 7 or 8 of them I have baked in a tent at 7 a.m. God. Yeah.
But there are ways to beat that as a camper that I wasn't smart enough to do at the time. But also there.
What's the way to beat it? You take a bottle of Freon,
more shade,
and suck on it.
More shade. You put a shade tent over your tent. There's also some lithium.
That's like saying wearing sunscreen while you're exploring the surface of the fucking sun.
No, it's not. There's also
hey, this whole ping pong thing doesn't work if you don't.
If I'm not ponging,
yeah.
Lithium ion battery technology with fans now. You can put a fan in your tent.
Yeah.
Okay. That'll do all right for you. I think it has gotten a lot better because the people that are there, Mike,
I'm trying to get you going. People, you know that.
Well, you've done it. 100,000 people wouldn't show up if it was just fucking misery the whole time.
Sure they would.
You think?
Sure they would.
Really?
Yes.
No, it's not your bachelor party. People.
No, I'm just kidding. I'm just being silly.
That is an exciting one for me, though. Bonnaroo, for sure.
I had a great time. The 2 years I went, I got a poster over there on the wall with one of the Bonnaroos.
I saw that. Yeah. I saw that in the corner. Is it a hologram or no?
Yeah.
Yeah, it looked like it.
I got to see Elton John there one year.
That was fun. Did you see the guy cut the Buzz Lightyear balloon during the middle of the set? You didn't see it?
I did. So
there was this. There was this guy that
you asked. I seen lots of things that weekend,
including your maker.
Yeah.
There was this.
I seen myself standing beside myself, and Amish donuts. I seen a bunch of those. Those are great.
The Elton John year was good. That was a really good year.
I know. I've seen them when they were releasing all the Chinese lanterns and all that stuff.
I don't think you can say that anymore. I think they're paper lanterns now.
Oh,
I know. Canceled, Mike McGill.
Fuck
Canceled.
Off.
I know. Hey, it's not me.
What do you want me to do?
Yeah.
I ain't got time to read up on all this shit. Any rate, the lanterns that went up into the sky.
You know you can't do those at shows anymore. You know why?
Fires.
Yeah, but they get up. People set them off in the crowd, and then they get stuck underneath the truss and everything inside. And then you got to send riggers up, to keep the goddamn place from setting on fire. No, that's because it gets under the tent or whatever.
I can see that. Yeah,
it's a bad scene.
Yeah, fire hazards.
Yeah, it's bad.
I seen. Can I say Billy Joel?
Yeah. Also a good year.
Didn't think I was just like, was not a huge, was enough of a Billy Joel fan because I was a kid of the 80s to know.
A sympathizer?
No, just to be just a fan. I mean, I just wasn't, Billy Joel just wasn't big on my list.
Well, that's what I was saying. Were you a Billy Joel sympathizer? Like you just kind of were okay. Like he's okay. Like I get it.
Well, I mean, he had a string of some stuff that came out in the 80s, that was a lot of top 40 stuff, and that's about all I knew. I mean, I knew some of the older stuff, but yes, so I suppose sympathizer. But then again, I didn't know Chinese lanterns were not allowed to be said anymore. So thank you for the new word, sympathizer. Billy Joel sympathizer.
I'm just not trying to get you canceled here.
But turned out, it was a really great show. I enjoyed it, and it was just something. It was a surprising thing because I didn't think I would hate it, but I didn't think I would come away with enjoying it as much as I did. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think that's what Bonnaroo being a microcosm, but I think that's what music festivals have ultimately become, is that if you look at a lot of the music festival lineups that are coming out this year, there's a lot of name recognition on them, but a lot of them don't have, followings that are just chasing them around the country now like they used to. So I think there's a lot of nostalgia value happening right now with music festivals.
For sure.
Like what I said with See Here Now, with Bruce Springsteen playing. I mean, I know he's going to sell out any place in New Jersey.
Yeah.
But you have the 311s of the world.
Well, I saw the
Beach Boys last year, the Chili Peppers. Yeah, there's things like that. Dave Matthews Band. Like I know these acts are still fine, but I think the nostalgia ticket is kind of a selling thing right now. And I think that speaks a lot to the demographics of the patrons. Is I'm not necessarily going to chase a band that I'm going to follow across the country like the jam bands used to do with a Fish or a Widespread Panic or anything like that, where somebody's going to come to every single one of your shows, or, booking these, once in a lifetime acts that you're never going to see.
Go ahead.
You're never going to see Billy Joel unless you come to Bonnaroo, or you're never going to see Elton John unless you come to Bonnaroo.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of nostalgia booking.
Well, there's safety in that booking.
I feel like there is, because
of course there is.
If I see
it's like
311, Third Eye Blind, blah 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 and then a band that I really 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 want to see, then I'm probably going to go because the rest of the card looks good.
But then I think too, there's still in the festival thing, and I'm just, you call it speculating if you want or whatever, but there's also still that hope that you might discover something that you never knew.
That's what festivals were always about for me, is that I knew what I was going to get with the top line.
So you have these,
and then I went because I was going to find out something really fucking cool. And I think that's what
you have these anchor nostalgia acts, if you will.
Yeah.
That's going to guarantee you X amount of people.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have
an undercard,
the next tier, and then you have the up and comers or somebody that they've taken a chance on of hoping.
I think that's I think that's really cool about music festivals. And I think that for me, that part of it always appealed to me early on when I was going as a patron. And I think that's also really appealing to an artist who is willing to play a festival for a lower rate and schlep their gear in through the woods at Bonnaroo, for instance, and get in front of the first 20,000 person audience they've ever been in front of in their life. Is because they're going to be exposed to a bunch of music lovers who, and if 5% of them come away being fans of yours, that's a win.
Where you either play for money or you play for people. It's only two things you play for. I mean, not in those situations is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You play, hopefully you play because that's your passion and that's what you love. But in those kind of situations, if you are that band or you are that artist, you're playing for two reasons. You're either getting paid or you're getting put in front of those 20,000 people. To have your opportunity, the one opportunity, maybe the only one you ever get. So you can die and say, I don't regret not trying it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Shot my shot.
Yeah. Yeah. Hit it, miss, land, you know, whatever goes.
Well, it's a fascinating model. And if you put a gun to my head now and asked, is it a viable model that's going to continue? Because music festivals have not always been a thing. They've happened here and there, but they've not been as prolific as they are now. You've had little bluegrass festivals here and there, but you haven't had big headline, millions of dollars of programming for these bands.
No, I mean, you've had them for a long time, but it's just like anything else. The technology and the advancements and, the people that are putting them on, the promoters, and just the fact that the whole world is smaller than it used to be, has seen them evolve into such a grander stage or number wise, and there's more of them. I think that there's more people as well.
Well, that's why
I think there's a lot of contributing factors to it.
That's why I think it has a good chance of proliferating.
Yeah,
because I think people are it's obviously appealing to the masses, and people are wanting to take in their music experiences in that way. And rather than going to see Pigeons playing ping pong on Thursday night at the Millen Mine, they're going to spend their weekend going to Big Ears and seeing 60 acts that they've never seen before for a little more money. And so I do feel like this whole societal and maybe almost anthropological push for people's people wanting to get the most bang for their buck out of a short period of time. I think that the music festival concept is appealing to a lot of people because they can, instead of just getting one show or one show in a weekend or, on a Thursday night and then another show on a Friday night, rather than doing that, they'll say, I'm going to go to this thing where I can take in a bunch of, where I can take in a lot of experiences, over the course of 3 days.
No, I totally think that's definitely a part of it. but I don't think that's at all parts of it. And you might not be saying that, but I do think that's a part of it.
Yeah,
but I also think that it's a lot of it is it's the hip thing to do. It's what everybody else is doing.
Yeah, there probably is a social element to it. Like my friends are doing this.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But
yeah. You're wearing Keds?
I'm going to wear Keds.
Not Air Jordans? Fuck off.
Yeah. Yeah, there definitely is a...
And I'm not trying to spin it negatively when I say that, but I think there's lots of other... I think it's very multifaceted. And I think you're going to see it continue to evolve. What festivals were 10 years ago, there's still going to be that aspect of it, but they'll be different as they move along. I mean, everything is.
I thought they were going to die with the pandemic, honestly.
Well,
I thought that whole...
Hell, we thought everybody was going to die with the pandemic.
That's true.
But
I thought that was going to be... I mean, live music was obviously one of the first things to go with in-person dining. Restaurants and live music were super hard hit by the pandemic, and I never thought that
and so many of that
either of them were going to recover. And I don't think that restaurants have.
No,
but I do think that live music has, and I think that people really missed it. I think that people honestly missed experiencing music being played in front of their faces and people entertaining them. And they've come back to it harder than ever.
I think they missed it for a number of reasons. From just the sheer, social part of it. As you guys see, I look at that whole crowd from this side of the microphone too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I have a little bit different opinion or perspective of it as well. But I think they missed it for that. And then I think they missed it also for because it was familiar and it was something that made them feel good and put them in a good mood and entertained them, but I thought it was, we all thought it was leaving. And that type of anticipation, I think, built it even more. It stoked the fires even more.
That's what I was going to say.
For it to come back.
I think that people made seeing live music and experiencing live music such a regular part of their lives that when it was gone, it was one of the first things that they really lamented missing.
Much. And you mean I got to drive a Corolla? I can't drive my Avalon now, or my Lexus. It's that takeaway.
Yeah.
For sure.
And I think that it honestly disproportionately came back. Like, I feel like people have rebounded harder than I feel like people are seeking out live music experiences now more than they were before the pandemic. And I think that the pandemic was a big reckoning for people in that sense, because once it was taken away, it was one of the most missed things. Because people were really digging into doing it all the time.
Yeah.
And then once it was gone, nobody did it. And I can make dinner at home. I can't make a live music show at home.
Yeah. Well, you said a mouthful when you said that, just the fact that, again, I liken it to the fact that, let me back up. You said a mouthful when you said that it was taken away and it was something that was always there. yes, 100% correct. But I also think that, now that I'm really thinking about it before I say it, I think that it also, it may be why, like I was saying before we started recording that, we're seeing younger and younger crowds even at our shows. But getting back to what you said, it was almost needed. It was almost needed to be taken away because we had so much of it.
It was a glut.
Yeah. If I ever get sick of fucking death of hearing bullshit about Austin, Texas, or about other places that's got this amazing music scene, and you don't mention Knoxville in the same breaths as those same places, as much good shit as I've been a part of and or I've seen and got to witness here in this town 7 days a week, it almost needed to be took away just to let people know, hey, this is happening. Now I know we're getting off the festival thing, but this has been happening, and you might have been aware of it. In some places you might not have been aware of it, but now it's no longer an alternative. You would give anything to be able to go to the Pilot Light and see some fucking bullshit punk rock band that you might have said was a bullshit punk rock band 2 years ago, or 2 years prior to the pandemic, but then they turned out to be, the next greatest thing, or the musical act on Saturday Night Live. You know what I mean?
Live music was...
when I tell people I opened for Sturgill Simpson and I've had dinner and opened for Chris Stapleton, that you would think I just told them that I built a rocket ship out here and flew to the fucking moon and back.
You kind of did, Mike.
People, you know what I'm saying, though?
Yeah.
But that was that accessible here in this town.
Mm-hmm.
And, people missed it.
I think I missed it the most. That's what I missed the most.
Well, sure.
Was live music.
And I'm not trying to, I think it's great. Let's get that out of the way. I think it's great, and I hope it gets bigger than ever. And anybody that's got any opportunity, myself included, to do this, to use their talents and be able to do something that they love, and even in the process of that, to be able to get paid for it as well.
You've done a good job of that.
I wish them all the best, and I want to see it be bigger than ever. But I do think that, it has been taken for granted for a little while, especially here in town, with just we're just so spoiled. There's so much talent that comes through here on a national level, on a regional level, and on a local level that people just don't know.
It's an embarrassment of riches for a Knoxvillian.
There you go. Yeah, very well said. So I don't want to try to take a negative tone on any of that, but man, all you got to do is look for it. And now it's starting to come back more,
And I think I hope that's good for.
And again, you gotta know, I've been watching this from the other side of the microphone and seeing it go down for years. So,
and so I would hope that would be that this new interest, or this new almost scarcity mentality from the population of live music would be good for folks like you who are playing out all the time.
For sure.
The appreciation, I hope, is up now.
It is. I mean,
people appreciate now what you do more than they did 5 years ago when it was around all the time. Then they had to deal with not having it. And now, I mean, hopefully, I don't know, you know the marketplace better than I do, but the fact that you're seeing younger people, younger crowds come out, I would think is a good sign that people are appreciative of what you're doing.
Absolutely.
And I mean, that tickles me to death to think that more people are appreciative of what guys like you are doing, which is going out there and making badass music as often as they can. Yeah. And so if somebody has an opportunity to go see it and go spend time with anybody making live music, they make it a priority.
Yeah. No, I think so too. And I guess what I was, if you've got the opportunity and you have the wherewithal and the funds to be able to do the bigger acts, then by all means, if it brings you joy, go do it.
Hell yeah.
Go to Big Ears, go to Bonnaroo, go to fucking wherever.
Yeah, but go see Mike McGill at Trailhead too.
And go down and check out the Wednesday night songwriter nights.
Where's that?
Of kids that don't, or
are they open mics?
Yeah, they're doing it down in Jig and Reel.
Oh, cool.
Every Wednesday night.
Is it any good?
Yeah, I mean, they're writing songs. You ain't wrote none, so
sure.
Obviously that sounded really harsh, but.
No, I haven't written any.
Well, I didn't mean it. I didn't mean it. Sometimes I come off so fucking deadpan that it sounds terrible. No, I think, I mean, there's always that. You're going to weed through the good and the bad, but there's always that, if you've got that festival mindset or that mentality of maybe catching and or seeing somebody before
they blow up.
Or before they were anybody,
I know so many people.
Or you may just get inspired by a story or just by a song, whether it changes, whether it's voted on the top 100 of Rolling Stones or not. It could be something, a personal, living in the moment, something that speaks to you that might help you. It may be the smallest thing, Do you know a lot of people who have stories like, I saw Margot Price at the Pilot Light, or I saw Sturgill Simpson at the Pilot Light, or I saw Tyler Childers at the Jig and Reel. Yeah.
Those stories are everywhere around here. And it's because we have an interested fan base of real music fans who are going out and seeing this kind of stuff.
For sure.
And so many people I know have stories like this. Like I saw Sierra Farrell busking on Market Square, stuff like that. It's like, I feel like we have a good finger on the pulse, and it's a good kind of sneaky music scene if you're not careful.
Geographically, Knoxville's always been kind of a hub town.
Well, what's the thing they say? We're a 10 or a 12-hour drive from 2/3 of the country's population.
Yeah,
or some shit like that.
Well, you're a 4-hour drive from 6 different states.
Yeah,
from Knoxville, and
we're
bordered
City.
by 8.
Right, but you can be in New York City in 11 hours.
Yeah.
Atlanta's no problem. Nashville, Cincinnati, Birmingham, no problem. Charlotte, easy.
Yeah.
Washington, D.C. is 7 hours away.
Yeah.
Like there's so much that you can do. And I really feel like our music scene has benefited heavily from our geographic situation.
Absolutely.
And Ashley Caps has had a big part of that too, getting a bunch of midweek shows from artists that are traveling from Atlanta to Nashville and just picking up a Tuesday. Yes.
It's gig savers.
Yeah.
It's the gas money that you didn't know you were going to make, and or it's pay the crew money that you didn't know you were going to make, that you actually get to split it 5 ways on the big check that you thought you were only going to be able to split 2 ways.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And Knoxville is that kind of city that a band has to try not to play if they're touring, or work hard not to play, because it's just right in the way.
Yeah.
And there's a shit ton of music fans here who want to hear it.
Yeah. Geographically, we're a hub. You know, you got to come through here, but you know, I think it's great. Support the arts and go out and see local stuff. And again, I hope I didn't come off sounding like the, negative Nancy or the old man stay off my lawn.
You didn't to me, not any more than usual.
But that's 2 for Ben, 0 for Mike. 2 hours here, and now he's got something to say.
2 hours? Shit, I'm only halfway through this cigar.
But, there's if you're receptive enough and willing and open enough to go out and take a chance on seeing different things, exploring new mediums, giving somebody a chance that may not have a name yet, you could be thoroughly surprised with the things that's just in your backyard of the talented people. So I just urge people to do that. But
do you feel fortunate ever to have been born and built a music career in a place where there are actually people who want to listen and to take it in? Because I've always felt like there's been, for a city our size, there's a disproportionate amount of people who like to listen to music, where if you're in a town our size somewhere else, they have different interests and they're doing different things.
Well, they do. Yeah. I mean, it's definitely, yes, to answer your question in the shortest, simplest way, yes. But there are still as many people out there that may even, and again, we're not talking about a ticketed event and or, a theater type setting or something like that. We're talking about making the donuts and the dues that have to be paid for you to be able to get to that point where you can do that kind of stuff. There's still a shitload of stuff you got to overcome with people that could care less, that still want to hear Freebird or want to hear, Wagon Wheel.
Yeah, that thing that you're talking about exists in every town, right? You can go to any town. You can go to any town and people are going to want to hear Freebird. So if you go and play Freebird and Wagon Wheel, you can play music professionally in any town.
Assholes are born worldwide.
Yeah.
Yeah.
New and born every day.
Every day.
Yeah. Do you feel like there's a more nuanced or appreciative music fan around here?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, yeah, I would say so. They're probably going to be a little more appreciative, or a little bit more, at least a little bit more receptive. That's where that mindset of mine comes in, of you have to get ahead of it. With your charisma, with your show, you got to get ahead of it.
It has to be something special about it.
Every one of them some bitches, you got to win them over. You got to do something to say, hey, one jackass at a time, and right now,
I'm the jackass.
I'm him. I mean, really, I don't know. And I don't know if that's the right way of...
Well, it's your way, and it's worked so far.
But yeah, No, I think we do. We have good fans here. I just think sometimes, and I think people can do it out of their own ignorance too, that they just don't know any better. But my brother's daddy's kid's brother plays banjo, or
you're like, that's you. Do the math. That's you.
My cousin's got a group, the Geritol Mountain Boys, and I'm probably wading way deep into the little more of the show business at a local level.
Well, I think it's fascinating because I've always looked up to you and looked up to all the artists around here who have seen making great music for a long time and seen being, fairly appreciated by the population. I've always wondered if there was any kind of if there was any kind of difference that it makes that you're around a group of people who actually like to take this stuff in, because I feel like around town, Knoxvillians, East Tennesseans, they got music running through their veins and they want to take it in. And so, you could live in some town in, the middle of whatever that's the same size as Knoxville, and people are movie fans or, they like NASCAR or whatever it is, but I've just always wondered if there's,
no, Knoxville's a great place, and we do have passionate fans. But when we're talking about, sometimes I feel like when we're talking about the masses, that you just and that could be the case for any place.
How come we don't have any national acts that come out of Knoxville? I feel like we have so much music that happens here and so few acts that become nationally touring acts, and I've never understood it.
Well, we've kind of got a little bit of the same problem that Texas does.
Yeah, Texas is probably worse than Austin in a lot of ways because...
Well, not just Austin, but think about how big the fucking state of Texas is.
Yeah, but most of the music comes from East Texas,
right? Listen to me. Let me get done.
Okay. I'm listening.
No, we're on the same page, but think about how big the state of Texas is and think about how much you can tour inside of that state and how many different places there is to make money there. And you can make a living without ever leaving.
I see what you're saying. Nobody has to shoot their shot because they can make a decent living.
Well, if I go to Blount County and play one night a week, and then I go to Knox County and play one night a week, and then I go to Anderson County and play a night a week. Then I go to Sevier County, which has 12 million fucking people show up there every year and play one night a week. Well, I'm working 4 nights out of the week. Let's say I'm working on a guarantee of $200 each show. Next thing you know, between tips and merchandise and T-shirts, I've made an extra $250.
Yeah, you're making six figures.
$1,200 a week.
Yeah,
and you ain't drove any further than 45 minutes away. Who the fuck needs to go anywhere?
Yeah.
I think that has a lot to do with it.
I've always wondered how Hayes Carl, for instance, a good example of a mid-tier, Texas artist who is a household name in Texas.
Yeah,
nowhere near the mainstream.
Doesn't need to be.
Doesn't need to be. That's always fascinated me. That model.
If you're somebody who works and you're somebody that's good and you got some drive and you got some hustle and you can think that way, and that's just let's just say you do a Friday night in 4 surrounding counties. You know what I'm saying? Then you pick up a Monday night. Now you're doing 2 shows a week. You know, you can.
Yeah.
Then I worked from March through December, from April through December, and went to Hawaii 6 years in a row for 3 months. January, February, and March.
I remember I saw you on the flight back.
Now, what the hell do I need to go to the Grand Ole Opry for?
Yeah. I've never thought about the Texas problem. That's an interesting. That's an interesting take.
Have to leave.
Yeah.
They don't have to leave.
Or you can make a living otherwise. That's fascinating, Mike. You kind of blew my mind a little bit, buddy.
What's the next big thing for you? Big ears?
Yeah. That's it. Festival season's going to wear me out. I'm so excited about that. Finding new ways to tell the story, man. Finding new ways to make these things, to bring people into those experiences that we're lucky to have. Seeing these amazing music performances and being able to bring it to people that, you know, either can't be there or want to be there, or maybe want to be there next year. That's exciting. Like I said, the big ones for me, Bonnaroo, I'm so excited about, and Big Ears, I'm super stoked about. And that's it. And then firing back up, getting some of these people that I've been talking to in my shop, getting, for my podcast, getting some of those conversations out in front of you.
Do you have any idea when you might start releasing them again? Or
you'll see another one this week. Okay. Maybe before this one comes out. And then you'll probably see them about 2 weeks apart.
I haven't unsubscribed yet, so I'm still following.
Well, now's the time.
Well, I mean,
if this isn't career suicide, Mike, sitting here with you, I don't know what is.
Best movie you ever made. Hey, man, I love you.
I love you too, man.
For many years of friendship, you've always been the same way every time I've seen you. I hope I've been that way.
You have.
I wish you nothing but the best with Sarah and the girls and all the stuff you got going on, and with Lock and Key, festival season, fly fishing. All that good stuff, man.
Thanks,
you're
Mike.
a gem.
You too.
And you keep doing what it is that you do. Keep staying positive. Don't be old and bitter like me.
Oh, I'd never do that.
You will one day. You'll wake up and you'll be like, what the fuck was I thinking?
Well, being your friend is a pleasure,
just
Mike.
Teasing.
I love you, man.
Love you too. Hey, folks, thanks for sticking around. This is normally the part where I ask Jamie if he would like to do another one, and he always says, sure. But remember one thing, be good to one another, love one another, and do something kind for somebody. Anybody can be an asshole, don't do that. And always remember that it doesn't cost anything to be kind, but there is certainly a price that will be paid for cruelty. Love y'all. See you next time. Cheers. One more for the good guys. You either is or you ain't. You do or you don't. You can or you can't. Or you will or you won't. Either way, baby, a good man, well, he's hard to find.